Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Environmental Impact Assessment course at Reykjavik University. We're still waiting for a few more participants. This will be the first year that we will do this course entirely virtually through video conferencing. So it's a bit a new experience, I think, for most of us. So we will see how this will work. There are still people attending. We should be in total 35 students, and also this year is a special occasion. Through this virtual teaching, we will collaborate with Metropolia University from Finland, from Helsinki. I welcome all the students from Helsinki. So we will have a virtual course that is distributed over several time zones. This is also why we start the course only at 10 o'clock Iceland time instead of 9 o'clock like it was usually the case, so that our Finnish friends can join as well, and also students that have been traveling more towards the west to North America and that are attending from North America, that they also can attend the course. I will go right into the course. I'm just waiting. We are now currently 27 participants, so maybe a few more will arrive. We will give the last students who arrive maybe a little bit late one more minute, and then we will start with the lecture. I can see there are currently 28 participants, and everybody is more or less here. So also, please, if you just joined, please mute your microphone so that we don't have a so that we can listen always to the person who's talking. I will also mute my microphone in case someone of you would like to ask a question. Feel free to use the chat of this Zoom conference to ask questions whenever you like. Also, feel free to post comments. The more interactive we are, the more interesting it will be. Okay, I think we are now, let me see again. How many are we? We are 29 participants, and I would like to start with the course. So first of all, I would like to welcome you to an Environmental Impact Assessment course. This is a project-based course where we intend to be as interactive as possible. You will be able to work on your own project. I will go over the details in just a few minutes. But maybe to start, let's get familiarized with the Zoom, just that everybody is sure that you can hear me all. I would like you to use the button thumbs up, just so that we can see that everybody can hear us. So please, if you hear me, please use the thumbs up button so that we can see that everybody can hear me well. I can see there are a couple of thumbs up. Okay, most of you, if you cannot hear me, please now write me a message so that we can find out what the technical problem is. Right, just best is you can either write a mail to Young Shu, the teaching assistant of this course, or to myself, David F. @ru.is, and we will try to figure out something as soon as possible. I think, or even better, instead of writing a mail, if you could just write it into the chat of this Zoom conference, because then we can see it right away. It's a bit difficult to keep the overview of the email while also looking at the Zoom. So, but I think everybody can hear me. I can see also that Kai Lindehau is here as well. He is the second teacher, the teacher from Metropolia University in Helsinki. Maybe Kai, would you like to introduce yourself just so the students can get to know you as well?
Kai just said he can't hear you, and I think he's gonna log out and log in again. And David, you have muted yourself.
True. Okay, now I unmuted myself. Okay, so see, these are kind of the things you have to get accustomed with. But Kai Lindehall from Helsinki, he will be. Oh, maybe he can just join right now. Kai, can you hear us? Okay, so there is still, I think Kai is unmuted, but we cannot hear you, Kai. If you, we still cannot hear Professor Kai Lindehall. So, but in the meantime, we have some more students arriving, so it's also good if we can take a few minutes just to wait that everybody is here so that we're all on the same page. So again, for those who just came new, maybe you can give me a short thumbs up just to be sure that you can all hear us, that you can hear everything and that the audio works. Again, lots of thumbs up. Okay. Okay. Okay, so maybe Professor Kai Lindehall, he will just write the, maybe if you could just write a short message as soon as you can join us. So and then we make the introduction a bit later. Now I have to get back to the main screen or my screen. So, like I mentioned before, okay, so I hope you can all see now the screen of the slides. Like I mentioned before, this is the first time that we do this course online, so some of the stuff we're still figuring out how the technical aspects work, and so please excuse if we are still testing some of the things, but it's my pleasure to welcome you to this environmental impact assessment course, and it's also the first time that we do this in collaboration with Metropolia University in Helsinki. So this is a joint venture between Reykjavik University and Metropolia University. And yeah, we will see how this works. So maybe I would like to introduce myself first. My name is David Finger. I'm a professor at Reykjavik University. I do mostly research on environmental issues, sustainable engineering, hydropower, renewable energies. Those are the topics I'm mostly interested in. I work also a lot with water resources, how to use water resources in a sustainable way. And on the teaching side, I teach 3 courses at Reykjavik University. One is, of course, this environmental impact assessment course. But I also teach the Iceland School of Energy summer school. Some of you probably heard some lecture from me during the summer months. And then I teach also a sustainable engineering and the environment course, which is a 12-week course that goes from January to mid-April, which is it's more theory and more technical aspects. While this course is rather a project-based course. It's a short course, 3 weeks intensive course where all participants get a chance to work on a project and present their project themselves. I also have some other collaborations, especially with the Johannes Kepler University in Austria. I will be part-time working next year also in Austria at the Johannes Kepler University. Then we have collaborations with Timisoara and Alpen Adria University in Klagenfurt. So these are universities where we have student exchange and where students can also do master theses in other universities in collaboration with our partners from those universities. So if you have questions regarding any of those collaborations, feel free to contact me maybe in the afternoon or outside the class lectures so that we can discuss those topics outside the class lectures. So we should go on to the next slide somehow. Oh, yeah. So today's lecture is, in principle, we have 5 objectives for this morning, Monday morning. One is, of course, to get to know each other. So we will make a round of breakout rooms where you can get to know each other, because you will have to form a group, a team of a group of 6 students where you work together on one environmental impact assessment project during the next 3 weeks, and which you will then present to the class at the end of the 3 weeks. I'll tell you more about it, how we think this should work, but this is one of the objectives, so that you get to know everybody in the class. Then I will tell a few organizational stuff. What are the assignments? What are the lectures? How is the course set up? And then we start with the actual content of the first lecture. So the first part of today's lecture is about environmental challenges. I think we should all be somehow aware what challenges we're facing. What are the biggest issues we're concerned about in order to address the environmental impacts that a project can have, and in order to try to mitigate those impacts. Then in the second part of the lecture, we will look at environmental disasters. So those are the disasters that occurred simply because of accidents, because of mismanagement, or because unforeseen things happened. And we would try to see what environmental disasters happened in the past so that we can anticipate them when we write an environmental impact assessment statement, and how to prepare for the unprepared. And at the very end, I'm going to go over the assignments again so that you know what is expected from you during the next 3 weeks. So, yeah, so Kai, Linda Hout, Professor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Now I'm with you all the way.
maybe you could introduce yourself just shortly to the students so that everybody gets to know you, and then we continue with the lecture.
Yes. Thank you, David. I'm sorry for this hiccup. I don't know what went wrong, but somewhere along the line between here and Iceland, I got lost in the communication channel. I could see you and I could not hear you, but I was clearly losing the audiovisual part, or especially the audio part. The visual part was there. Very welcome to this course, and I'm very thrilled and very excited about being here with you today. And the next 3 weeks, I hope we will have a wonderful time and learn a lot of things about environmental impact, of course, and also about our different countries and our different parts which we can also benefit from, that we have this possibility. So very welcome from my part as well. I've been working here at the Metropolia for about 11 years now, and I really appreciate that David and your staff is giving us this opportunity to take part in this. And I really truly think that this is a great opportunity for all of us to see how we can interconnect and also work together on issues which are of interest in not only in our countries but worldwide, actually. So I think that's a splendid and excellent possibility to learn from each other and together with each other. So thank you a lot, David, for inviting us to this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kai, for this nice introduction. I think one thing I want to highlight, what Kai also said, that we will learn interactively from each other. So the more we interact with each other, the better we will be. Environmental challenges are frequently global challenges, so we have to work together to find a solution. And I think this is one of the benefits of having these online lectures, where we can have actually people from all over the world contribute to this course. So feel free again, if you have comments or you would like to ask a question, to just write it into the chat group, so that we can have an interactive course and learn from each other and have experiences from each other. Just maybe a few things. You should all have received an email yesterday where you have a Dropbox link. In this Dropbox, I will always upload the slides. We're currently thinking about also making videos of the lectures, because some people are located in different time zones. So so that you can then, if you miss one lecture, you can watch the video of the lecture, the recording of the lecture at a later point. But I really encourage you to be online, because a big important part of this course is this interaction between the students, between the lecturers, and between the and people giving the lectures. The more active you are, the better we can focus the topics that are interesting for you. It's really, because the lectures I'm going to give today, for example, is just an overview of the challenges. So if you're interested in a particular challenge, we might discuss it a bit more in detail and go over other parts of the lecture a bit faster. So in the Dropbox link, you will find the assignment sheet that you also should have received on Friday, where you have an outline of all the things that are expected from you. Because of course, since this is a course which will be graded, you will get a grade at the end of the course, and it's all explained in the assignment sheet. So yeah, one more thing is we have prepared some interactive quizzes where you can where we're going to ask a few questions about the lectures, and then you can answer the few questions. So in order to test these quizzes, they are prepared. Let me quickly see if I can do this. With menti.com, and Yang Shu has prepared has all the software ready. So Yang Shu, can you hear us? We have a few questions to start with, and this is just to get familiar with the technology, with the Zoom technology. So what I would like you to ask you, either open a new browser. You should all see now the screen from Yang Shu, menti.com. And now either you open a new browser or you use your cell phone and you type in menti.com. You go to the website menti.com, and then you use the code 4593249. So again, you can either use your cell phone or use a web browser on your computer, but don't stay on the Zoom link. And this is just to get familiar with menti.com, because we will have short quizzes later on in the lecture. So once you go to menti.com, type in the code 459324 and then you can, and then we can see where you're from. So we can see already we are quite international group of students. Iceland is of course in the lead here, with the most people are responding that they're from Iceland, but we have people from Mexico, from France, from Colombia, Florida, USA, Helsinki, of course, our friends from Finland. Finland is very strong here. Basque country, Spain. So we have someone from the Basque country, Texas, US, Michigan, Iran, Germany, Peru, Russia, Indonesia. I think this is more or less it. Okay, we see that we have really a high diversity, a very international group, and the more interactive we are, the more interesting our course is going to be. So I think, Yanshu, you have a second question, right? Yeah, exactly. The second question is, what is your local time right now? This is important just to see if how distributed we are. Okay, so here, this is a multiple choice question. So please find your time and, oh, okay, so it's okay. I can see that most people it's 12:20. Okay, so here we have Iceland, UTC. So, okay, so one person is in a time zone, it's 4:20 a.m. That must be probably California. So, and so as I said, okay, I'm sorry that this to have to get up so early, but it was a bit difficult to find a time that suits to everyone. So the person who is streamlining our course from California, maybe of course it's possible to listen in, to look at the recordings and maybe join in later. But again, I would like to encourage you all, if possible, to participate online, because then we can interact and we can discuss those topics that are more interesting. Can we see how many people replied, Yangshu?
Yes, there are 30 people replied.
Okay, so I think we can continue, but we have seen that it's really a wide distribution of different time zones. So now I have to, again, find out how I can share my screen. Share the screen, okay. So you should see again my screen, and then I'm going to go over some of the organizational stuff. So again, the Dropbox links, I have said this already. There you can find all the slides, and we'll try to put up also video recordings of the lectures at a later point. So administrative stuff. So the course is called Environmental Impact Assessment. It starts today and it goes until the 11th of December. It's a daily course. And we will have lectures where different lecturers will give a lecture on a certain topic from 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock Iceland time. So this is tentative. Of course, if we discuss some topics more in detail, it might take a bit longer, but we'll try to stick to the tentative schedule from 10 to 1. But a large part of the course is project work, where you prepare a project and we discuss your project in the afternoon or during outside the lecture time. On the 10th of December, you're expected to present your project to the whole class in a short presentation, 25 minutes or 20 minutes, between 20 minutes and 25 minutes, you present your project, and then you have 5 to 10 minutes questions and answers about your question, about your project, and that is what is expected from you as a final project to be presented. The assignments, there's an environmental impact project. This is a group work, so maximum 6 students, so you should get to know each other and form groups where you would like to work on the same topic. And then there's a sustainability exercise. There I would like you to look into your local community and find ways how your local community can become more sustainable. This is again a presentation that you can present as a group of maximum 6 students. And then there are 2 individual exercises. The individual exercises, you will get a grade individually. For group work, you get a grade for the entire group. So it's not, obviously we expect you all to work on the project, but this is a bit up to you to divide the workload between the 6 students in an adequate manner. So the first individual exercise is an extended abstract. The extended abstract is about half a page about the topic that you're mostly interested in. And it's important that within the abstract, you have references. So you reference all the facts that you mention in the abstract according to a scientific referencing style that is provided in the assignment sheet. And also the abstract should include at least one figure and one table. The purpose of this individual assignment, the extended abstract, is just to see that you use the correct referencing style, that you use the correct referencing of tables and the correct referencing of figures, because you can then use the feedback you get for the extended abstract for your final project report, which you will have to hand in on the 15th of December after the course. So your project should involve the environmental impact assessment project that you do as a group. Should at the end you will have a presentation, but you will also write a report of about 30 to 40 pages, which you will hand in on the 15th of December. The second individual assignment is a fact sheet on the environmental impact assessment project. So there, we'll go over this tomorrow. In the fact sheet, you will, the 6 students come together and say, okay, you're going to work on the social economic aspects, you're going to work on the emissions into the atmosphere, you're going to work on the water emissions or emissions into the water, and then each student will work individually on a certain sub-chapter of the environmental impact project and hand in a fact sheet of the project about this sub-chapter. In this way, you can work during the first week or the first part of the lecture of this course on sub-chapters of the environmental impact assessment project, and then in the third week you merge the sub-chapters together to a final report, so that everybody gets graded for the sub-chapter, but then at the end you also get the grade for the final project report. So in this way, individual work will be valued as well as teamwork. So the evaluation of your final grade, 10% is just participation. So I understand that for some of you it's a bit difficult to participate. So if you have an excuse, just write me a mail, then you will of course be excused. But 10% of your grade comes from the active participation during lectures and mostly during lectures and when you present the project. 40% of the grade comes from your individual work. So this is the extended abstract and the fact sheets that you hand in. And then the big chunk of the grade, 50% of the grade, comes from the final project that you hand in at the end of the course that you present on the 10th of December, and the report that you hand in on the 15th of December. If there are any questions, please feel free to just post them into the chat of the group. I will check it from time to time, but yeah, feel free to just write straight into the chat of the Zoom conference. So again, just to remind you, these are the deadlines: 27th of November, Friday of this week, you should submit the abstract as described in the assignment sheet. On the 4th of December, a week later, you're expected to hand in the fact sheet. So this is the sub-chapter of the environmental impact project that you're working on as a team. And then on the 9th of December, you're expected to present the sustainability presentation. So this is just a presentation. We'll go over it at the end of the lecture today, where you look into how your local community can become more sustainable and present it to the class on 9th of December. Then on 10th of December, Thursday, the third week, you will present as a team the final project of your final environmental impact project. And then you will still have 3 more or 5 more days to finish up the report, to also include some of the questions you get during the final presentation of your environmental impact assessment project. Any questions so far? No questions so far. So, so maybe we just go over program of the course. So this is a tentative program. Changes might still occur, but the first week usually is just concept, method, tools, and presentations. So today we're just going to the environmental issues, environmental challenges, and environmental disasters. Tomorrow we're going to look at the environmental impact assessment process. We're going to look at the concepts, the theory, and the methods. How does an environmental impact assessment work? And what is the legislation behind it? And then on Wednesday, we're going to focus on geothermal energy. So we have Professor Jón Asparsson. You probably know him already, or you might have had already lectures with him. He has been working for the geothermal energy in Iceland for over 20 years. And he's an expert in geothermal energy and will provide you with a lecture on environmental impacts of geothermal energy. It's a little bit, because in Iceland, of course, as you probably all know, 80% of the energy production, domestic production, comes from geothermal energy. And so that's why we put a special emphasis on geothermal energy. And then on Thursday this week, we go into how you could split up your environmental impact assessment project into sub-chapters. And this is a way that you could already think of, that when you split up, when the 6 students of you split up into and divide the workload into different sub-chapters of the environmental impact statements, you could divide it up like this, that one student looks at the atmosphere, so all the emissions that go into the atmosphere. One student looks at the hydrosphere, so everything that goes into the water pollution. And then one student could look at the lithosphere, everything that pollutes the soil. And then there's the biosphere. Of course, this is what impacts on animals, on the vegetation, the flora and the fauna. And then the anthroposphere, which includes how your project impacts on humans. So this could include, of course, social economic benefits that you get out of your project. If you build up a company or a factory that employs a lot of people, you can, of course, then also this should be addressed in the anthroposphere, where you show the impacts on human society. And we will also discuss a few examples on Thursday. And then on Friday, this is where you'll be asked to present the project idea. So on Friday, you don't get a grade for your presentation. This is just to make sure that everybody has a project and that everybody is on track working on a project. So you will get the chance to present your idea for the environmental impact assessment online. The second hand will be this year a special Finnish land. So we will have lectures from the Metropolia University. Pentti Vilu-Sela will give a presentation, and of course, Professor Kai Lindedal will also present some specific case studies from Finland. And then the third week, I'm actually very honored to welcome the ambassador or the delegation of the European Union to Iceland to give a presentation of the European Green Deal. So this is really a huge economic project within the European Union. It's almost 3 trillion euros that are being funded over the next 10 years. The objective, of course, is to make the European Union carbon neutral, so that we don't emit more CO or greenhouse gases than that are being assimilated or sequestrated in different ways. So this is really a huge economic project that the European Union has set up just during the year, and we will have a representative from the European Union give a presentation of this huge economic incentive. Then on Tuesday, we will look at 2 examples in Reykjavik City of a circular economy and fossil-free transportation fuels. So these are two companies that just opened up recently in Iceland, in Reykjavik, so that you can see what is being done locally. And on Wednesday of the third week, you will be able to present your example from your local community, how your community becomes more sustainable. And of course, we will then discuss how different communities around the world go towards more sustainable development. On Thursday of the third week, you will have your final presentation. So this will be graded again. This is the final presentations where you will get a grade for. And then the 11th of December, the Friday of the third week, this is an answer and question day. And we can hopefully use it to discuss specific aspects of your environmental impact assessment project during the day, so that you can integrate some of the questions that came up during the presentation into the final report, which will also be graded and which we will have to hand in on the 15th of December. So again, unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, we cannot meet in person. So this is a picture of previous years. In the previous years, we always had field days where we actually measured water quality in rivers in Reykjavik. You can see all the snow here. We also looked at pollution on the snow. So this is where we could go out and do some field experiments. This year, this is not possible, but we have hopefully a very exciting alternative with online lectures and people from the European Union, and also this opportunity to work together with our colleagues and friends from Finland, and to work together with them and have an online lecture course together. So I would like to make a short round of presentation so that you can get to know some of the other students in the class. Young Shu, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear.
Do you think we could try to do these breakout rooms where we can group the students maybe in groups of 6 so that they can get to know each other, and maybe they can already find ways of forming teams?
Yeah, we can do that, but I will need some time to assign people in different rooms.
Okay. So maybe, what time is it? We have like, yeah, we have enough time. So maybe we could do a short presentation, and we can do maybe the breakout rooms tomorrow. And today we could maybe just start with that everybody presents themselves very shortly and gives a background and where he's from, what he's working on, and maybe you could also start your camera so people can see you behind the name that is written behind it. If we start from the alphabetic order, and maybe I'm just going to call up the names, and then you can say a few words about yourself, what you expect from this course, and what you're interested in, what kind of project you would like to work on, so you can attract maybe some other students that can contact you and say, look, I would like to work on the same project. So maybe if we start in alphabetic order, we could ask Andres Laverde to present himself first.
Okay, hello, my name is Andres, I am from Colombia. I have a bachelor in geosciences, and I'm interested in geothermal energy.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we go over to Arcaiz Donoso.
Good morning, I'm Arcaiz. I'm from the north of Spain, and I'm currently studying the sustainable energy engineering, and I'm also much focused on geothermal energy.
Okay, welcome. Okay, so then we have Babak.
Hi, David.
Hi.
I'm Babak and from Iran, and I'm currently doing my master thesis in sustainable energy engineering, working on a wind turbine, like aerodynamic design. And I would like to know more about like the impact of like the wind farms on the environment and everything. That would be nice.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Babak. So then we go to Chloe.
Hello, so yes, my name is Chloe and I'm studying engineering in France. And so I am in my 5th year of engineering school. And I'm pretty much interested in the protection of water, how to preserve our water resources.
Very good. Okay, then we just continue with Drew Barron.
Hello, I'm Drew. I'm from the United States. I'm in the energy engineering program, and I'm interested in wind energy and hydrogen production.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Drew. Then we go on to Ekkit Johansson.
Yeah, hi. I'm from Iceland. I actually work for a power company called HS Orka. So I have a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and currently taking a master's in engineering management. And my interest is in geothermal energy.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ekkit. And then we go on to Gloria.
Hi, my name is Gloria Gladys. You can call me Gladys. I'm from Indonesia, and I want to learn more about life cycle assessment of geothermal operation, especially from the wells to the steam above ground system.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So Gunnlaug, then we go to Gunnlaug Helga.
Yes, hello. My name is Gunnlaug and I'm from Iceland. I'm currently doing the sustainable energy program, and there are many things there that I find interesting, but at the moment I think hydro and geothermal.
Okay, thank you, Gunnlaug. Then we go to Hjörleifur.
Hello, my name is Hjörleifur. I'm from Iceland. I'm doing sustainable energy engineering in Reykjavik University, and my interest is, I think, wind, hydropower, and hydrogen production.
Okay, thank you. Then we go to Jackson Grimes. Jackson, can you hear us?
He said his microphone is not working.
Okay. Okay, then maybe we give Jackson at the later point the possibility to introduce himself. Then we continue with Johannes.
Yeah, hello, I'm Johannes, and I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and I'm mostly interested in geothermal and heat pumps.
Okay.
And how we can use heat pumps for energy generation.
Okay. Then if we go in alphabetical order, then we have Professor Kai Lindehal. He already presented himself, so maybe we can go right to Katrin.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I am from the United States studying sustainable energy in Iceland, and I'm mainly interested in the legal and financial aspects of these projects.
Okay, very good. Then we go to Lorenzo Semadini.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo. I'm from Mexico, and I'm doing the sustainable energy program as well. And I'm interested in hydropower and the impact of wind farms in the environment.
Okay, thank you. Then we go to Luis Furtan.
Hi, everybody. I'm a lawyer. I'm doing my master in sustainable energy in Reykjavik University. I'm in my 3rd year right now, and I'm interested in everything related to policy and circular economy.
Oh, very good. And then we continue with Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm from the US, from Michigan. I study geological engineering. I don't really have anything specific right now that I'm interested in.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole. Then we go to Nina Echelmann.
Hi, I'm Nina. I'm an exchange student from Germany, and I'm interested in green hydrogen and also the environmental impact of different types of diets.
Okay, thank you. So then we go continue with Noelle Fischer. Noelle, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. I'm Noelle. I'm from the States. I have a bachelor's in geosciences. I'm in the Sustainable Energy Program, and I'm also interested in wind and hydropower and their effects on the environment.
Okay. Very good. Okay, then we continue with Odile Cesare.
Yes. Hi, I'm Odile. I'm from France. I'm also an exchange student here, so I will be leaving soon, sadly. I would like to work on, oh, sorry, I didn't say what I was studying. I'm studying HVAC and energy engineering in France. And I would be interested in working on hydro, but I would gladly work on anything.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Then we go to Oriane Gigini. Gigini,
Yes.
sorry.
Hi, my name is Oriane, so I'm from France. And in the last year in France of my school, it's a general school of engineering. And I'm curious and I would like to learn more about sustainable energy and the impact of the environmental and on the world.
Okay, very good. Then we go to Paula Fernandez.
Hi, my name is Paula. I'm from Spain. I have a bachelor degree in geology. I'm interested in geothermal energy.
Thank you. Then we go to Silvana Loaiza.
Hi, I'm Silvana. I'm an architect. I'm interested in geothermal energy. I'm currently in the Master of Sustainable Energy Science.
Thank you. Then we go to Soleil Sara.
Yes, hi. My name is Ole, and I'm studying engineering in Iceland. I'm mostly interested in the environmental impact of geothermal and hydro energy.
Okay, thank you. And then we go to Stefan Sjöholm.
Thank you. Mainly interested in environmental impact, sustainability as whole, and my aspiration is to work with aquatic systems, aquatic environmentalism, sort of preservation and regeneration.
Okay, thank you. And then we go to Teemu Vesa.
Hello everyone, my name is Teemu. I'm from Finland Metropolia, third year student studying environmental engineering, also with Stefan. And I guess my special interest is in circular economy.
Okay, thank you. And then we go to Theophile Jonas.
Hi, I'm Theophile. I'm coming from France. I'm doing engineering diploma right now, so generalist. And yeah, I don't know yet where I'm gonna work, but environmental impact, it's something that interests me. So yeah, that's why I choose that.
Very good. Then maybe Thorstein Gudmundsson.
Hello, my name is Thorstein. Most people just call me Thor. I'm currently doing my thesis on a wind farm feasibility in a remote location and how best to store that energy.
Okay. Thank you, Thorstein. Then we continue with Tia Westerberg. Tia Westerberg. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, I'm Tia, I'm from Finland, and I'm studying my third year environmental engineering.
Okay.
And I am looking for interesting lectures and learning new.
Okay. And then last, but for sure not least, we have Tuula Koskenpää.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tuula Koskenpää and I'm from Finland, and I study environmental engineering in Metropolia as well, and I'm mostly interested in circular economy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to thank you all. I think we have a very interesting group together with different expertises from different areas. And I think this is also what is needed for an environmental impact assessment study. An environmental impact assessment, as we go over it tomorrow, is always very holistic. It has different aspects. You have to look at the physical, the chemical, the biological, but also the social and the economic aspects of sustainability. So if you form your team for your project, try to get students from different backgrounds into your team. Because this is an advantage, of course, because if you're going to write about a geothermal power plant, it's of course an advantage if you have an engineer that knows about the technical aspects of the power plant, but it's also important to have someone from the economic sector who can then look into the feasibility and the economy behind such a project. So you've seen that there's a variety of different backgrounds, also a variety of different interests. You can look at the website of this course, and you can see what other students, student projects from previous years, what other students looked into, just to get inspired to what is possible. Students have been looking into environmental impacts of geothermal power plants, of wellhead generators, but also students have been looking into projects like the environmental footprint or the ecological footprint of tourism in Iceland, or how to make the transportation more sustainable in Reykjavik city, or how to reduce plastic pollution in the oceans. I will try to point it out during the lecture. Please be also aware that this course is not really an engineering course. We will not go so much into technical aspects of factories or so. It's more about the concept of writing an environmental impact assessment statement, how to write it, how to structure it, and how to incorporate the expertise from different areas into the final report. That is the objective of this course. So if you manage to get a group of students with different backgrounds into your team, then you have already an advantage, because of course then the sub-chapters of each of your environmental impact project will have a better background because of the team members that you put together. It's part of the challenge of this course to work with different peoples and from different disciplines to communicate between the disciplines, which is sometimes not that easy if you have to talk with someone that does the social studies and you have a technological background. Sometimes in order to understand each other, we need to find a common ground of understanding first. So this is part of the assignment, part of the challenge of the assignment, to come together, find a group of people that have a similar interest, and then try to come up with a report from various different peoples with different backgrounds that give a holistic picture of the environmental impact of the project, the topic you select. So the questions I want to raise here: why study environmental impact? And this is actually what I want to address this morning with this in this first day. Just to get us all together on the same page, I want to give an overview of the challenges we're facing in regard to environmental sustainability. And I've prepared here a short video. I would like you to click on this link but it's only 50 seconds long. And if you click on it, it's a YouTube video. If I stream it through Zoom, it will not work. Unfortunately, we tested it yesterday, so Zoom, the bandwidth or the internet is not strong enough that I zoom it on my computer and transmit it to you. So it's easier if you just click on this link down here and you watch this short video. It's only 50 seconds long. Please, at the end of the video, close your web browser again, because otherwise YouTube might continue playing sounds and then you will get disturbed by it. It's a very short video that I would like you to look into, and in 50 seconds we come back together and I will say a few words to the video.
Could you please paste the link into the chat? We can't
Yes, I
click
can
on
do
it.
this.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, where's the chat? Oh, this was the wrong one. Okay, yeah. Okay, I think we can continue. If anyone has not seen the video, you can watch it afterwards. But my point with this video, of course, I mean, if you watched it, you saw that this is it's an avalanche that comes to it and people are sitting there drinking and eating relaxed, and no one realizes the the danger that that they're exposed to, and the avalanche comes and then flows out, over everyone. It's just a movie. It has nothing to do with environmental impacts, but it's a metaphor that sometimes is used by media, by some scientists as well, to describe the situation we're in. And you probably all have heard that this phrase is the house on fire. Some people claim that we are living in a house that is on fire because of the environmental challenges we're facing. And my point is not to make panic or to raise panic, but I want to look at this situation if it's painted like this. So you can see here the avalanche that comes down the mountain, and the smoke builds up. Some people get really concerned about this, and some people ask themselves, are you okay? Some people are already standing up and running away. Other people are very relaxed and still watch the avalanche coming. And it's a bit a situation that can be compared to if you read the reports, and there are reports and scientists that have been looking into this very carefully, that claim that there is a similarity between this avalanche that comes towards the people and the danger that we're exposed to. So there are extreme weather patterns. We can observe this, that the weather becomes more extreme, and that the frequency of extreme weather becomes more extreme due to a warming climate. Deforestation, I think everybody would agree that we are deforesting the earth more and more. Biodiversity loss, we're losing animals, soil degradation, waste, climate change, resources depletion, pollution. So it's an overwhelming number of topics that we're facing in regard of challenges. But the point I want to make is that these challenges also present an opportunity, an economic opportunity for engineers and for people that would like to go towards a sustainable development. You can work on prevention, reduction, anticipation, mitigation, adaptation, compensation, and of course you can also look into technology and business opportunities, how to make the world a more sustainable way. The main message I want to bring out, I don't want to create panic or anything else. I just want to point out that this challenge we're facing can also be an opportunity to create more circular economic models and to create more sustainable development by simply coming up with different business models that create jobs and that create prosperity as well, but are simply more sustainable than previous technologies. And it's a little bit the spirit of environmental impact assessment to try to develop your project in a way that it mitigates, compensates, and anticipates the environmental challenges that we're facing currently. And that's the main message of the 3-week course I want to bring across. So just in case, of course, this has been published by very well-known scientists. For example, in 2019, Rickle and his team from the Resilience Center in Stockholm, they came up with this world science warning of climate emergency. So they talked for the first time in 2019 of a climate emergency. And if you look into this, these are 11,000 scientists that are that have been spending most of their professional life looking into climate change, and they signed this paper, which was published in a well-known peer-reviewed journal, claiming that we're almost in a climate emergency. So it is something that we should, that at least the science tells us is very eminent, and that we should take into account and be careful that that we have an issue that we have to deal with. So how much time is left? Sometimes people say we have to act now, we don't have time to left. And you can also see this in the reports from scientists and IPCC, that where scientists come up with these statements that we have 10 years left. And just like last year, for example, when this report came out that we have 18 months left, and that actually the year 2020 has to be a game changer where the economy shifts towards worldwide towards something that is more sustainable. And these are pretty drastic messages that we get from well-known and well-established scientists around the world. If you look at the IPCC report, so this is the International Panel of Climate Change, then they state clearly that we have to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030 in order to keep warming below these 1.5 degrees Celsius that have been agreed on in the Paris Climate Agreement. And especially they point out in the IPCC report that 2020, so this is this year, that we must reach a peak of greenhouse gas emissions in order to reach this goal. If we don't reach this goal, then we might experience some very uncomfortable challenges in the future, environmental challenges in the future, like, for example, mass extinction, waste, pollution, and other challenges that I'm going to go into. Of course, this is not something that just came up last year. This has been investigated for many years, and probably one of the most recent important papers that came out, also by Ripley et Röckström et al. In 2009, was about the safe operating space for humanity, where scientists identified 9 planetary boundaries where we have to be careful in not to overpass a certain tipping point after which the world becomes uncomfortable to live in. One of them is, of course, climate change. Then there's ozone depletion. You might have heard, we'll look into this. Novel entities, these are chemicals that are being introduced into the or emitted into the atmosphere, where we don't know exactly how much can be released and what is the effect. Atmospheric aerosol loadings, those are aerosols that are being emitted into the atmosphere, like fine particles. Ocean acidification, due to increasing CO2 in the atmosphere, the oceans become more acid. Biochemical flows, phosphorus and nitrogen, the cycle of phosphorus and nitrogen we're just simply using up some of the phosphorus and nitrogen which is needed as a fertilizer for food production. Freshwater use, this becomes in some areas already very critical. Land system change, where we just use up more and more land for different purposes, and we cut down some of the forests, or we destroy some of the wilderness. And then the biosphere integrity, where like I mentioned before, this the biodiversity loss, which is also an operating space for humanity. So if you're more interested in this, of course, the papers are all in the Dropbox, so that you can read about it, because they looked at this in a very scientific way and can explain this a lot better than myself. But I just want to point this out because this is what the challenge we're facing that we have to look into. And after the 2009 paper, 6 years later, the same team of scientists came together and wrote another report. So this was from 2015, where they pointed out how critical those boundaries are. And they've identified, for example, climate change, biodiversity loss, phosphorus and nitrogen loss, deforestations as 4 of the 9 planetary boundaries as being very critical. Again, you can read it about more detail. So this was in 2015. The world community reacted to these studies, and they came up with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in the General Assembly of 2015. These sustainable development goals, they were more or less adapted by most member states. 193 member states accepted those sustainable development goals as being something that the whole world should embrace and should try to develop towards a more sustainable development. And it was kind of a game changer in the perception of how sustainability is perceived, because it was the first time that the entire world came together and said we should go towards an economy that becomes more sustainable. Again, if you're more interested into it, you can click on the link and you can look at the different 17 sustainable development goals. I don't want to go into the detail, just want to give you the background, how we came to this situation where in recent months, certain scientists and certain people claim that we're living in that our house is on fire and that our world is facing a climate crisis. So this is more or less why I think we should study environmental impacts. Just to sum this up, also last year in November, pretty much about 1 year ago, 15,000 scientists came together, wrote a paper. And so again, these are pretty well-known scientists around the world that wrote this report that we are really facing a situation where we have to act now in order to address the environmental challenges we're facing. I think I also have here the link the scientific, so these of course are headlines in newspapers, but in the Dropbox, I always put the original publication that describes the scientific analysis behind those pretty astonishing headlines that come out in the newspaper sometimes. So feel free to look into those scientific reports that are in the Dropbox if you're interested in finding out more details about why scientists are giving out these very drastic warnings regarding sustainability. So here I pointed it out, these 15,000 scientists came together and they looked at ozone depletion, freshwater depletion, and went into the different boundaries, planetary boundaries, and pointed out how drastic the situation is and what we have to do. Meanwhile, in regard to the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, indexes have been made and countries have been ranked. So here in this figure, you have the GDP of countries, and you have the Sustainable Development Goals Country Index. So these are indices which describe how well countries adapt the Sustainable Development Goals since 2015. And of course, countries that are wealthier, like the United States, Switzerland, Norway, maybe Germany and Luxembourg, they have they are pretty wealthy economies. And then of course, it's easier to adapt Sustainable Development Goal measures to address those challenges than for countries where the economic output is lower, and it's more difficult to come up with concepts that go towards something that is more sustainable. Maybe in 2000, I think this was from 2018. At that time, Sweden was one of the highest ranking countries in regard to sustainable development, but you can always look this up by these indices on the website the link that I provided down here. Again, this is just to give, just to put us all into the same, so that we all have the same background information, what is happening in the world. I think one important aspect is also the United Nations Climate Change Conferences. So the first conference happened in 1995 in Berlin, when the world came together and said climate change is an issue that we have to tackle, because otherwise we might warm up the climate, and this would lead to devastating effects on the environment and on the climate as well. And so the world came back 25 years ago, came together 25 years ago to discuss this for the first time. 1997 was actually a game changer. The Kyoto Protocol was the first time that the world came together and actually acknowledged that the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is necessary to tackle climate change. So this was 23 years ago when scientists and the leaders of the world came together and said, this is really something that we have to take into account. And then the world continued, and actually nothing really happened. There were no, the world leaders came together every year, discussed about climate change, but in principle, up until 2015, there were no real measures taken to tackle climate change and to change and to go towards something that the entire world should address. Up until 2015, and this is where the climate change conference took place in Paris, and then of course the Paris climate change agreement was signed, where the world committed that we should not emit more greenhouse gas emissions that lead to a higher warming than 1.5 degrees Celsius. On 4th of November 2016, and this is in principle the agreement that many countries around the world are currently discussing, or some countries around in the world are currently discussing if they should re-enter into this agreement to preserve global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, or if they should step out because it might hamper economic growth. 2016, 2017, 2018 were pretty prominent climate change conferences, but there were no real drastic measures taken to enforce the Paris climate agreement. So you have here a picture also to see how these climate change conferences changed. In 1997, there were a few world leaders that came together, and in 2015, during the Paris climate change conference, the list of almost every country in the world sent out the delegation to this conference, and the conference reached a pretty prominent status. Last year, 2019, was a pretty chaotic year because first the climate change conference was scheduled to be in Brazil, but Brazil, the new president of Brazil withdrew his offer to host the climate change action. So it was then decided to do it in Chile, but in Chile there were some social unrests for different reasons. And so it could not be held in Chile neither, and it had to be moved to Spain in the last minute. And so it was a bit, the climate change conference last year was really a bit a disastrous one, because it had to be moved twice from a different location to be finally held in Spain. And this of course led them to a, well, different leaders, also some leaders of the world also said that they would like to step out of the Paris climate change agreement because to protect their economies. But other countries went ahead with implementing drastic climate change policies. As for example, the European Union, they came up with this European Green Deal. We will have a special day on this European Green Deal in the third week, where they decided that by 2050, European Union should become carbon neutral. 73 other countries committed to become carbon neutral by 2050, and then some other actors are applied as well. Just to give you an overview of this European Green Deal, which has been announced just a few weeks ago by von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. So this involves almost €1 trillion of investment into the economy and a funding of 260 billion euros per year up until the year 2030. So if you total this up, this makes up almost 3 trillion euros, which is a huge amount of money that is being put into the European economy to shift it towards something that is more sustainable. And yeah, it's just also an opportunity for people who would like to go towards something that is more sustainable, that we might keep in mind that, that governments are trying to provide incentives to go towards something that is more sustainable. This year, the climate change conference was canceled due to COVID-19 pandemic, but it will be rescheduled for next year. And it's of course a very critical issue because, as we've seen before, some scientists claim that 2020 is the year where we have to change our greenhouse gas emissions, where we have to reach a peak of greenhouse gas emissions. And unfortunately, this collided with the COVID-19 pandemic, and the climate change conference was cancelled and postponed to next year. So maybe a few more words to Iceland. Iceland has a pretty high global greenhouse gas emission per capita. In 1990, it was about 3.5 megatons of CO2 equivalents. By 2070, these emissions rose to almost 4.5 megatons of CO2 equivalents. But already in 2017, they announced they would like to lower greenhouse gas emissions below 2050. And if you have been following the Icelandic news, the new government plans to make Iceland carbon neutral by 2040, and this is a pretty challenging goal, because you would go from 2015 with over 4 million tons of CO2 equivalents to almost nothing. And it's just, I just want to point out that this is actually a local challenge that Iceland accepted to tackle, and which will require pretty drastic steps into that. You shift from an economy that emits that has a pretty high carbon footprint towards something that is completely not carbon neutral by 2040 within 25 years. It's a pretty challenging task. And one way they want to do this is by electrifying the car fleet. So they have already lowered taxes for electric cars. You will get also lower taxes for biofuel-driven cars. These are all ongoing projects, and we will have specific lecture on those two topics later in the week. Maybe for Iceland, so this is directly out of the greenhouse gas emission report from the Environmental Agency of Iceland. About half of the CO2 emissions come from the industries in the industry sector. As you probably know, Iceland has an industry that is heavily based on aluminium and silicon production, which use up a lot of the electricity in Iceland, and they are responsible for almost half of the CO2 emissions. Then a good quarter comes from road emissions. So these are the fossil-driven cars that drive around. So this is maybe one of the reasons why Iceland puts a lot of emphasis on electric cars and maybe biofuel cars. There's a lot of research going on in that direction. The fishing fleet, all the fishing boats that go out, they could also of course be shifted towards something that is driven by biofuels. Just to point out, you can actually upgrade a conventional gasoline engine to a biofuel engine by simply installing a biogas tank and adapting, of course, the valves and some technical aspects. So you don't have to buy a completely new car. You can retrofit a fossil fuel driven car with biofuel cars. And in some cases, you can already buy a bi-mix of biofuels in the current gasoline that you buy at the gas stations. But again, it's important to look at those global processes, because then you can identify what sectors should be tackled in order to decrease the greenhouse gas emissions. And for Iceland, for example, the heavy industry is, of course, something that can be taken a look into. Okay, so this brings me to the overview of the first part. What time do we have? We have, it's already 11:30. I'm completely out of time. I'm a little bit running behind time, so I'm going to continue right away and maybe go a little bit further, a little bit quicker over the topics that I have in the slides. But if you have a specific question, feel free to put it into the chat group. I'm going to try to look at it more often. But I realized that giving these online lectures, I lost a bit track of time. I have to go a bit over it. So this is just a list of environmental challenges the world is facing. Of course, human population and their ecological footprint. So this is just a figure that shows the drastic increase of human population. We're now over 7.5 billion people on the earth. And you can see this increase actually happened within the last decades. Even though we had world wars, we had diseases and everything, the world population has been increasing exponentially since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And simply because we have better health standards, better living standards, and we can livelihood increased and also life expectancy increased. So this led to an exponential increase, which will probably continue for a couple of more decades, this exponential increase. So this is probably one of the big challenges we're facing, and connected to the to this drastic increase of human population is the ecological footprint of each person living on this planet. So you can look into it, what the footprint means in detail. If you look at those links, in principle, it's just how much resources are being used up by each person on the world, living on the earth, on the world. And here you have a more visual aspect of how much resources are being used up by the average person in different countries. So of course, you have Qatar, the countries where petroleum producing countries like Qatar, Kuwait, and they have a pretty high ecological footprint because of course of the whole petrol is being extracted in those countries and then being shipped abroad. Then you have the more Western countries like US, Belgium, the European countries, Australia, Canada, and then some of the European countries that have pretty high carbon ecological footprint. So this number means that you would need that you would need the number that is listed here of worlds in order to sustain the resources used in these countries. So if we take, for example, Belgium, you would need 7 worlds in order to meet the resources use of an average people living in Belgium to be sustainable. And this is simply something that is not that leads to something that is unsustainable. And of course, you can then go to countries in the third world where the ecological footprint is a lot lower, simply because they are using less resources than the average person living in the Western world. So here's Iceland. Here, Iceland has with 6.5, like I mentioned before, a pretty high ecological footprint. Given that Iceland has 100% renewable energy production, this is a pretty high number. It's partly due to the heavy industry that is located in Iceland, where a lot of it is being exported. Almost the entire products from the heavy industries are being exported towards other countries. And part of it is also because Iceland is a pretty wealthy society with a lot of consumption, and this leads to a pretty high ecological footprint. So you can also look at it, and this is also an interesting figure that is frequently being brought up by when the ecological footprint is being discussed. So we have here on the x-axis the Human Development Index. Every country in the world tries to make the Human Development Index better for people living there to increase the livelihood. And unfortunately, through increasing the Human Development Index, you also increase the ecological footprint of the country. Simply because if you all of a sudden you have the opportunity to study and to travel, you are going to consume evidently more energy, or you are going to consume more products, and this will increase the ecological footprint. But there are some examples of countries like, for example, Australia. They went from a slightly higher ecological footprint in 1975 to a lower ecological footprint in 2003. You can see it here on the right-hand scale, while increasing the Human Development Index. So they managed to increase the livelihood of people living in Australia while reducing the ecological footprint. Of course, it's only a slight decrease and it's still not sustainable, but it's a way that it is possible, and hopefully we will be able, that all countries in the world somehow reduce their ecological footprint towards something that is lower while preserving the Human Development Index, because of course we all want to we want to create a world where the livelihood is sustainable, is livable for everybody in the world. And this is a little bit within the spirit of environmental impact assessment projects. So let's go to the next slide. So here is an example of students in previous years. They looked at the ecological footprint, the carbon footprint of exchange students in Iceland, and compared it with the emissions from in their home country. And this is a typical examples that you could take a look into by looking at how much emissions are being emitted in Iceland, how much emissions are being emitted of a typical student living in the different countries, and then compare it and to assess the carbon footprint of exchange students in Iceland. So a pretty nice study done by a group of students 5 years ago. And it's just as an example to what you could take a look into during the next year. A few words to climate change. So you probably all know this. You have shortwave radiation coming from the sun, coming to the atmosphere, heating up the surface of the Earth. Then long wave radiation is sent back into the atmosphere, and then you have, if you have these anthropogenic greenhouses like CO2, methane, nitrogen oxide, then part of this radiated heat is being reflected onto the Earth, and this is what you call the human enhanced greenhouse effect. So this is more or less just the physics behind it. You can talk to physicists who have investigated this. You can look at models, and you can look at experimental observations, which is pretty much in the scientific, there's consensus that these greenhouse gas emissions are responsible for the global warming around the world. I want to show this figure of the Earth history. If you look at the history back to 500 million years before present, you can see that on the Earth's surface, there were huge fluctuations, up to 14 degrees Celsius differences on the surface of the Earth. And sometimes this is being taken as an example of stating, look, but before the climate was also variable, it's just a natural phenomenon. But what I want to point out here, I mean, this has also been investigated by various different researchers. Since human societies have been established 10,000 years ago, when the first Egyptians started to build pyramids and they started to do agriculture and live at the same place, the climate has been almost stable over 10,000 years. And simply, it's simply because then the climate got so stable that it was possible to have agriculture and to stay at the same place. And what we're talking in respect to the Paris Climate Agreement is those 5 degrees warming. This would be something which would go up to here, or up to 8 degrees by 2010 if we don't do anything. So this is the challenge we're facing in regard to climate change and the Paris Agreement. So if you're more interested in this, feel free to look at these animated graphics, how climate change is impacted by different factors, because there's this link down here below explains this pretty visually, how anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions are responsible for the global warming. I'm going to go over this. If you have questions, please feel free to post them into the chat, because we're just a bit behind schedule. I also want to point this out. This is frequently what scientists have for climate emission scenarios. Currently, usually the A1B scenario is being used. So it's this green line when we talk about projections into the future. So this is the A1B scenario is something that is moderate growth with an emphasis on renewable energies. And you can see here that even with this scenario that we have been doing in the past decades, which is this green scenario, then we would reach almost 2.5 degrees warming. And this is what actually comes out of recent years, where people say that we have to do more efforts and we have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2020 in order to keep something that is constant, so which would be this more yellow line down here. And this is the challenge, because up to now, most economic models predict greenhouse gas emissions that are rather on this on this green line. Even if we start using more renewables, we have to do more stronger efforts. And this is actually the game changer that is maybe described by different governments, where they really enforce renewable energies, electric cars, and so on, towards an economy that is different, where we have to come down towards something that keeps global warming at maybe below 1.5 degrees warming, which would be something more in the direction of a B1 emission scenario. If you have questions, please please paste the questions in there. Otherwise, I will be just pointing this out. But I think the point I want to make is that these emission scenarios stay with those you can predict how much warming you get, and then you can come up with these measures that are explained in the European Green Deal, for example, where we intend to become carbon neutral by 2050 in order to lower those the projected global warming into the future. Here's some pictures of the effects of climate change. This is a picture from Switzerland. This is Aletsch glacier, one of the biggest glaciers of Switzerland. And you can see here a couple of years ago, the glacier was still up here. Due to global warming, glaciers are melting. You can experience this also in Iceland. You can see here the tree line. The glacier has simply shrunk drastically because the weather is getting warmer. This is a picture of Sólheimafjökull. If you drive to the southern coast of Iceland, you can see this very drastically, how Sólheimafjökull in Iceland has been decreasing over the past decades. And here are some pictures of the glaciologist group. And you also can look at the video. Feel free to do this in your free time. You can see a time-scaled video of the shrinking of Sólheimafjökull over the past couple of years. Globally, glaciers have been decreasing in mass, and this is really a direct consequence of warming temperatures. Same can be seen in the Arctic Sea. You probably have heard about the Northwestern Passage, where ships might be traveling through the Arctic, which opens new opportunities. But obviously, this is a direct consequence of warmer temperatures, where the Arctic sea ice is simply decreasing every year drastically. Sea level rise is also something that is being observed in coastal communities. Sometimes you have just the seawater during high tide coming out of the irrigation system, where seawater just pops up into the streets. And of course, if this continues, then you will have to evacuate these areas and create dams and pumps in order to sustain living in those areas. But it's something that is already causing huge economic costs in infrastructure, because you need to update the roads and the pumps and the flood protections in coastal areas. And this is already happening now. It's already a consequence of global warming that is happening right now. I see there's a question. Yes, so yeah, I realized that some of the slides are maybe outdated, and the graphs I showed were from 2007. I would have to look into this. This was a project I was working on myself. I did climate change projections and I used those older scenarios. So there are newer scenarios. I would have to do the research to find them, because I don't have them available just right now, but I will look into this. So the question was that the previous temperature curves for the emission scenarios that I showed before. Can I go back here? Seems like my computer is stuck. So here, these are scenarios from 2007. Obviously they are newer as projections, but the general challenge stays the same. We somehow have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions drastically in order to reach the Paris Climate Agreement. Okay, so, climate change, okay. Yeah, so global warming not only leads to sea level rise and glacier loss, it also leads to more intense evaporation. Droughts will become more intense and also longer. And this is also already experienced by desertification around the world. Areas that have been pretty wet have all of a sudden become a desert. And this is another effect of climate change that could lead to devastating effects, because of course, if you all of a sudden have deserts that increase, this might impact on food production in those areas. Floods, I think almost all countries in the world have been affected by more intense floods and more frequent floods. This is a picture from 2005 in Switzerland, in Lucerne. And Lucerne is probably one of the cities that has one of the best developed flood protection infrastructure. And still in 2005, there was such a heavy rain event that the entire city got flooded and people had to walk in flooded streets. And it was something that no one expected, because flood protection is quite well developed in Switzerland, but still, due to the warmer climate, the atmosphere can contain more water, and then if it rains, you have extreme precipitation events that even some of the newest flood protection infrastructure cannot contain. Okay, here I have a video again. You might look at this in the afternoon, because I just would like to go ahead with the lecture where more or less what I explained before is explained about the impacts of climate change. Biodiversity. I think you all have heard about this. We're almost living in a 6th mass extinction, simply because we're using up all the ecological niches where animals and wildlife and wilderness can sustain. So if you look at the past 540 million years, massive extinctions have always occurred in the history of the world, but it was never as drastic, as fast as in recent decades. And it was always linked to a natural occurring event. For example, massive glaciation during ice ages have been linked to mass extinction. Changes in sea level and ocean anoxia have been linked to mass extinction. Asteroids impacting on the Earth have been linked to it. But currently, what we're facing in the last decades is a mass extinction simply by humans that are hunting and using up the space of wilderness and leading to the extinction of many of the animals. If you're interested in this, I uploaded the publication where they do the statistics of different animals extinctions into the Dropbox. So feel free to read more in detail about how this has been done, how they come to these conclusions. So loss of biodiversity, you have casual factors. Of course, we have seen this: population increase, consumption increase, resources efficiency have an effect on the direct drivers. So of course, we use up more space for agriculture, we go fishing and hunting, and urban industry, water use, energy and transport, and then you have that which create direct pressures on the biodiversity, because we simply destroy the habitat of some of the animals, and this leads then to this global state of biodiversity loss in the world. So let's, okay. So here's just the headline again about the use of pesticides, because it's one of the driving factors that lead to a mass extinction of insects. And this has been in the news, especially in the European Union, where the glyphosate ban has been discussed quite intensely in the last few years. And again, I've put a link to the article in the Dropbox. So soil erosion and degradation. So this is linked to the change of land use. If you take a forest, you cut it down and you use it for agriculture, and you're not careful, you might degrade the soil, because you simply use up all the nutrients in the soil. And if you don't treat it in a sustainable way, you can degrade the soil. And this is really a global problem across the world, where you simply have agricultural land that has been used up in an unsustainable way. And then you have these maps from very degraded areas where vegetation doesn't really go back. As an example here, on the left-hand side, you have a piece of land that has been overgrazed. There have been simply too many cattle on it. And on the right-hand side, you have something that has been managed in a more sustainable way. And you can see that if you manage the land in an unsustainable way, then you destroy the vegetation. The vegetation cannot recover itself if it after it has been abundant again. There are some examples from Iceland in regard to soil degradation. Iceland has even an agency that is responsible for the soil conservation. It's called the Soil Conservation Service of Iceland. It's located in Gunnarsholt, and it started in 1907. This is the farmstead Gunnarsholt, how it looked like in 1940, and this is how it looks like today. And this is a huge success story, because Iceland has, through policy and through incentives for farmers, restored part of the vegetation at least in southern Iceland. This is an ongoing effort, and you probably hear this always in the news again. I think just yesterday there was an article in the news that there's a new area that is going to be forested in northern Iceland. It's also a part of the carbon sequestration efforts of the government of Iceland, but it's also to counter the degradation of soil loss. Phosphorus and nitrogen cycle, we saw this. This was identified as one of the planetary boundaries, which are critically at the critical stage. We're simply using up the phosphorus and the nitrogen resources in an unsustainable way. And it not only affects the resources that are still available for fertilizer, but it also affects the freshwater systems. This is a freshwater system in the Yosemite National Park in California, where you can see a natural state of a clean lake where the water is clear and where it almost has drinking water quality because there's no agriculture in the area because it's in a national park, compared to a lake in an agricultural area. This is just an example from Germany, but there's similar examples exist in other countries as well, where you have nitrogen and phosphorus that is being washed into lakes. So if you have an agricultural area, through rainfall runoff, nitrogen and phosphorus goes into the water, creates phytoplankton, it falls to the bottom, gets mineralized, uses up all the oxygen, then the water becomes anoxic, and then you have these massive fish kills like you see in these pictures, and that frequently occur during the summer months in some of the fresh water systems when you're not careful that phosphorus and nitrogen is not recycled in an adequate way. There's also a paper I've been working on myself for Switzerland, and this is the Lake Lucerne in central Switzerland, which was threatened by eutrophication, so too much phosphorus input into the lake. But through proper sewage treatment systems, the situation has been increased again. So you can see here the phosphorus and the nitrogen increase. On the right-hand scale, you have the phosphorus concentration in the lake, and on the left-hand scale, the nitrogen concentration. Up until the 1970s, this was really a severe problem, and the lake started to degrade, the water quality started to degrade, and then in the 1970s, sewage treatment plants have been constructed, and phosphorus has been taken out of the sewage and out of the water release into the environment, and the original quality of the lake was successfully restored through proper water protection. So just to point this out, phosphorus and nitrogen can really create death zones, like in the Gulf of Mexico or in Northern Europe is sometimes the case, where simply you input too much phosphorus and nitrogen into the oceans, create anoxic conditions, and then you can have massive fish kills, like seen in the pictures before around the world. Freshwater resources is a big issue, which due to climate change becomes more and more intense. So like mentioned before, you can have areas that are already dry where evaporation increases that become even drier, and then you create these conflicts for water resources. There are various different conflicts that exist. Maybe the most prominent has been in the news just recently on the Nile. Ethiopia is building this Renaissance dam, or would like to build it, and Egypt is threatening them because the freshwater flow through the Nile into Egypt could jeopardize the water supply to downstream countries. Similar has been happening in Anatolia, in Turkey, where the Tigris River has been dammed and water has been held back from flowing into Syria and Iraq. And similar examples of tensions occurred around the world, where people are simply, where water resources are becoming scarce because of increased precipitation and also because of increased water use for different purposes. This is an example of the Aral Sea in Middle Asia, Central Asia, where you can see that a previously freshwater lake has almost completely dried up, and you have in the middle of the desert boats that are standing here. Here you have an example of the Aral Sea in 2014, in 1989, and in 2014, a few years ago, on the right-hand side. And the reason behind it was mostly cotton production. A lot of the water, of the inflowing water, has been deviated for cotton production, and this led to this dry up of the Aral Sea. And this has then also huge economic impacts, because of course there was a flourishing fish industry, tourism industry that has been impacted severely by this water use for different purposes. Ocean acidification, I want to touch upon this also very quickly. In principle, what happens if you have increased CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere, the CO2 gets dissolved in the ocean, reacts with the water, and creates carbonate, and then creates H+, which increases the acidity of the water. And if the acidity increases, then you can have, then the carbonate of crustaceans can dissolve, and this of course impacts on the food chain, because some of those sensitive marine animals, simply their shells dissolve, and this can have a devastating effect on the food chain in the ocean, and something that we should take into account. Pollution. Air pollution is the single most deadly environmental impact for humans. You probably have seen those pictures. This is from smog in some of the third world large cities. This is from Nepal, Kathmandu, where you simply can't see the Himalayan mountains anymore. If it's a very windy day, then you can see the beautiful mountains in the back, but on a normal day, simply due to air pollution, you can't even see the mountains in the surroundings. So you always get these headlinks where you have different cities around the world that have very high air pollutions, and that's why you need strict standards to reduce pollution in big cities. So the World Health Organization estimates that 7 million people die prematurely due to air pollution, and this is probably one of the biggest impacts on human health in the world. Ozone depletion. Maybe to come up with a positive example, this was in the 1990s. There was an ozone hole discovered around the Antarctic. And so the way ozone works, you have CFCs that are emitted with chlorine in it, and they react with the oxygen. So here I have the chlorine cycle, where chlorine reacts with oxygen and creates a chlorine monoxide, and then it reacts with the ozone, which protects us from shortwave radiation coming from the sun. And if the ozone layer is destroyed, you have more solar radiation coming from the sun, and then it can, of course, impact on human skin and finally lead to an increase of skin cancer and other uncomfortable impacts. This has been successfully treated with the Montreal Protocol in the 1989, where the world came together and said, this is simply an environmental threat to the entire world. The world came together and signed the Montreal Protocol and banned CFC components in detergent and hairsprays and other sprays. And since then, the naturals or the ozone layer has been at least stabilized and decreased. And yeah, so just to point out, ozone is something that we need in the upper atmosphere, but of course, in the cities, ozone can be a smog contributor. It's unhealthy product in the atmosphere. So just if you hear it in the news or in the newspaper, there's a difference between ozone that is in the cities or ozone that is in the upper atmosphere, because in the upper atmosphere, ozone protects us from this shortwave radiation that comes to the earth, while in the cities you would not like to have high ozone concentration because it's a pollutant and can create health concerns. Overfishing, I don't have much to say of overfishing. Iceland has a pretty good quota systems to make the fishing sustainable, at least from a sustainability point of view. But obviously overfishing is a big issue because we simply cannot take out more fish from the ocean than are being recreated. Deforestation, this was also in the news during the past months when you had wildfires in many parts of the world, where some governments decided to ease restriction on deforestation, but this is of course something because the forests are the lungs of the earth, and they assimilate CO2, take out the CO2, and create a cycle of the carbon and the oxygen. So that is, of course, something that we have to take into account as well. Plastic pollution. You probably all have heard about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So this is a huge area as big as Australia of garbage that is accumulating in the Pacific Ocean, which could look something like this. There was a group of students that looked at the possibility of cleaning up the Pacific garbage patch, and they actually came up with the conclusion that it's almost impossible to clean it up, even with the newest measures that you might have heard in the news, that there are automatic boats that can collect the plastic and bring it to the shore. This group of students wrote a study, how much emissions would be created if you were to go out with boats and take the plastic and bring it to the shore, and then how much emissions would be created on land to treat the plastic. And it's almost an impossible problem to solve. So probably the only problem to solve this is simply by reducing the consumption of plastic and shifting towards other materials that are more sustainable. This has also been addressed by the world leaders at the World Economic Forum, where they came together and in 2014 already and gave out a drastic statement that if we don't reduce plastic consumption by 2050, there will be the same amount of plastic in the oceans as the amount of fish. And this is a pretty devastating statement. You probably all have seen those pictures of birds that eat up the plastic, and then they they die because of the plastic eating. So resource depletion is also something. We're using up the resources in an unsustainable way, simply by extracting out more and more resources. This is, for example, a diamond mine, just to show how deep we have been digging into the earth surface in order to extract some of the valuable resources. And this, of course, increases also the energy needed to extract the resources. So it's a big issue that we should also be concerned about. I want to stop here. There's a short quiz for you to answer. And I know that we overtook. I'm very sorry about this. I have to keep track. It's already 1 o'clock. It's already 12 o'clock. So we have 1 hour left. But there's a short quiz. Youngshu, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So there's a short quiz. We will make, after the quiz, a 5-minute break so that everybody can get a coffee, and myself as well. So we will start the quiz, and after the quiz, we will have a short break, and then we start with the second part of the lecture so that we can finish in time by 1 o'clock. So Youngshu, maybe you can share your screen. And then I would like to ask you all again to go to menti.com, type in the code 833984.3. So you can do this again on your cell phone, or you can do this on a web browser on your computer. But then you would have to then you have to see if you can, maybe you have a second screen so that you can see it anyway. But please go to menti.com, type in the code 833984, and then Youngshu will start the quiz on this first morning part of the lecture this morning. So we have, how many participants do we have? Can we see this here? Youngshu, do you see how many participants we have?
We have 24 right now.
Okay, maybe we can have, and let me quickly see, there are some more people joining in. We have a pretty good group together.
Maybe you could repeat that number again.
So the number is 833984.3. it's also, if you look at the Zoom screen, then you can see the code, and this is the number that you have to type into when you go to menti.com so that you can participate in the quiz about this morning. Obviously, you can give a real name or you can give another name. So again, this will not be graded. It's just to see, well, to see a bit how that you were all awake. So I think we might start. So the first question, for 2007, humanity's total ecological footprint was estimated as how many planet Earths? So you have still 16, and you have already 17, 19 answers, 27. So in order to get more points, you have to answer as quick as possible. I think we have 26. Yangshu, you have to monitor if everybody answered, and then you can show the answer. 2 seconds left, time's up, and 1.5 was the correct answer. So about half of you got this right. I think there was maybe a tricky question because it was in 2007, which was a lot lower than today. It changed quite a lot, but we have a new leader with a volcano as a icon. Yero is leader followed by Drew with about 50 points ahead, and then third place is Lorenzo with a little gusano as a icon. And we come to the second question of this morning lecture. Which of the following is the cause of biodiversity loss? So here we have climate change, human consumption, deforestation, all of them. So again, it's also a question of answering as quick as possible. If you get more points, if you answer quickly, then if you take your time. And I think, let's see the results. The results come right here. Oh, okay, we didn't see the results. Oh, yes. Okay, all of you, most of you got this correctly. Maybe some of you answered too quickly and then jumped right on the first. But of course, it's climate change, human consumption, and deforestation, because we're taking up the ecological niches and destroying the livelihood. So I think we have a new, the positions stay the same. Yero conserves his lead, even expands his lead to 39 points ahead of Drew, and Lorenzo is still in third place, following very closely. And then we have, I think, fourth place is someone new with a moon, with a big shoe, and Timo from, I think it is one of our Finnish friends on 5th position. So, and then we come to the third question. Which of the following is not a result of climate change? Glacier retreat, sea level rise, more floods, use up fossil fuels. Okay. Okay, we're gonna see who's had 29 answers. And use up fossil fuels, of course, because use up of fossil fuels might cause climate change, but it's not a result of climate change, but all of the other ones are changes. So are we gonna have a new leader? I think, yes, okay, the first three still stay at the same location. Yero is first, Drew following with, Yero took a big step ahead because it was very fast, and Lorenzo is just 1 point behind third place, and our Finnish friend from is following in fourth place by overtaking the previous fourth place. So I think there's 7 questions in total. So here comes question 4. We have already almost half of the questions to go. WWF, World Wildlife Forum, claims that how much of the topsoil on the planet has been lost in the 150 years? Did we have this in the slides? I'm not sure if you had this in the slides, but it's definitely an important question. So we have 9 seconds left. Probably it was in one of the slides, and we have a pretty diverse answering. 9 of you answered 50%. Let's see, maybe we're gonna have a new leader. We'll see how this turns out. And since the first 4, oh, we have a new leader with Nina is in the lead with a small rowing boat taking the lead. Then we have Babak in second from Iran, if I remember correctly. And then Odile with a nice fox in the 3rd position. And then we go to the 5th question. There are 2 more questions. And to answer, which of the following is the impact of particular matter 2.5 micrometer diameter pollution? Human harm on human health, decreased visibility, cooling down the earth, all of them. And I think we discussed this, and of course it is 7 seconds to go to answer. And it is, of course, 1 second left. It is, of course, all of them, because you know, for sure it impacts on human health, but it decreases also the visibility. We saw the picture from Kathmandu, and it cools through this also the planet. So I can see Jero was again the fastest. He's catching up. He's back on the podium on 3rd position, but still Babak preserves his lead with Odile following just behind it with and Lorenzo in 4th place. So I think we have the before last question. Ocean acidification decreases the water pH value mainly due to what human activity? Increase of sulfur oxide emissions, decrease of sulfur oxide emission, increase of CO2 emissions, decrease of CO2 emissions. So Yangshu put in here trick answers because he added sulfur and CO2. And actually sulfur can also lead to an increased pH, but it's not in as high concentration as CO2. That is why the main cause for ocean acidification is the CO2 emissions. Sulfur has led to acid rain in the past, but it's not the main cause for ocean acidification. So this was maybe a trick question because some of you didn't read. Odile took the lead with 5,149 points, way ahead of Luis with a nice unicorn as an icon, and Drew with a snowflake as an icon. And there's Thinky, who is in 4th position, thinking very carefully to maybe get onto the podium. I think this is the last question, last chance to get onto the podium. And which international agreement is made of solving the ozone layer depletion problem? So we have the Kyoto Protocol. We discussed about the Kyoto Protocol in 1997, the Paris Agreement 2015, Montreal Protocol in 1989. Which of the 3 was it? It was in the slides, if you remember correctly. 7 seconds to go, 5 seconds, and let's see how many got this right. And time's up. Last question. Of course, it was the Montreal Protocol in 1989, which led to the ban of the CFCs, and which then preserved, well, at least it stabilized the ozone layer. It was a very important and successful international agreement dealing with successfully with an environmental challenge the world was facing in the 1990s. So congratulations to, Tula came in maybe fastest, but it's not enough to, Drew was fastest, taking the 2nd position. Odile wins the game with 5,996 points. Congratulations to Odile for the first winner of today. We will have a short coffee break, come back in 5 minutes. Let's meet in 20 past 12 to go over the last part, and then we also have a lecture. So please come back in 5 minutes so that we can start with the second part of the lecture in time. See you very soon. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Could you give me just a thumbs up just to see if most of you are here? Because, okay, very good, thank you. Let me see. Okay, what I would like to do until everybody is back, I would like to do some very short breakout rooms. It's kind of a speed meeting or speed dating. Yangshu has prepared breakout rooms, so you're going to be grouped randomly in groups of 6 students, I believe. So you can get to know each other. You can say, please say hello, be kind to each other, and try to find out if you have similar interests in a similar topic. So I suggest that we do 30 seconds of breakouts rooms where students can meet in breakout rooms for 30 seconds, and then we're going to change the rooms again, just so you can see if you can, you know, to get to know your classmates, see if you have similar interests in doing a project, and we will do it again at the end of the second part of the lecture around 1 o'clock Iceland time. So Yangshu, if you could group the students into breakout rooms randomly, then for like 30 seconds.
Yes, I have done that. So if somebody has not been assigned to a room, you can let me know. I noticed that Steffi not assigned to a room. I will assign you to a room. And then,
Yeah, hi Steffi. We grouped students into breakout rooms so you can get to know your classmates. So you will be assigned to a breakout room for 30 seconds, maybe a little bit less now.
All right.
Sounds like they have a good time talking to each other. I could hear a lot of speaking.
I think
that's great.
As co-host, you should be able to join any of them, but I didn't find that.
No, that's okay. That's okay with me. I'm fine being here with you. I would like to join those breakout rooms later on, then in another session maybe.
Yeah.
Or I can assign into any room right now. You can.
So Kai, we might overtake a bit than the original time.
Well, I think it's fine with me. I will probably leave at 1 o'clock anyway, your time. But if you have something which you want to communicate with me earlier, then of course I would like to know that. But otherwise, I will join you tomorrow again at about 10 o'clock. So
I think it's fine with me. I think it's just important that all students get going with their project.
Yes, yes.
So I'm going to try to, so this, I think that's why we might do a few more breakout sessions after the course, so that people who have not yet found a group can still get a chance to get in. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I like that one. I like that one. I think it's important that they have time to sort of talk to each other and find out what do they like and what do they want to do. So I think that's great.
So Young, is this after 30 seconds? Are they coming back automatically, or do you?
No,
have
I can close all rooms, so they will come back.
But maybe give them like 5 seconds, you know, so it's not that, you know, that it doesn't.
Okay, I will have a broadcast here, so they will know that.
Okay.
I like this menti.com. It was a very nice way of, let's say, getting the people a little bit more, let's say, aware of what they have been hearing and so on. So it's sort of repeating also a little bit about what was going on.
Then I will close the rooms. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, everyone. I hope you came back from the breakout sessions. We're going to do more breakout sessions after this fourth part of the lecture this morning. I think someone has still the microphone open. Okay, good luck. I'm just gonna take the, yeah, very good. Okay, so just to one more time kind of summarize what this first lecture is all about. This is more, today's lecture is mostly about inspiring you to work towards a project that takes into account all the environmental challenges. In this last part of today's lectures, I will summarize some of the accidents and disasters that have been occurring in the past, environmental disasters. And the reason behind it is that in an environmental impact statement or assessment, you also have to take into account the unexpected, the possibility that an accident can occur and how to deal with the unexpected. Because if an accident occurs, if, for example, you have, for example, you are drilling a borehole and you trigger an earthquake, you want to be prepared for the unexpected disaster that can occur. And I want to give a short overview. Again, it's more to trigger your thoughts when you're going to discuss your project. And at the end of these lectures, we will do a couple of breakout rooms, just like we did now, so that you can get to know your fellow students, classmates, and that you can hopefully form in the coming days a team that works together on an environmental impact assessment project during the next 3 weeks. So let's see, here. So the first environmental disasters that I want to start with in summarizing some of the disaster was the Seveso disaster in northern Italy, close to Milano. It happened on the 10th of July, 1976, and it was a dioxin factory that was producing dioxin, and at that time in the 1970s, there were no real emergency procedures. So when the accident occurred, actually no one knew exactly how to deal with this. And a week passed before the public was informed because they just didn't know how to deal with this unexpected event. And then another week passed, so 2 weeks passed before people were evacuated. And then they started to name the zone which was strongly contaminated as a zone A, B, and C, which was also a bit confusing because people didn't know what the zones meant and what are the consequences of being in there. And obviously, this led to devastating effects. Well, people were exposed for almost 2 weeks with high concentrations of TCDD, the concentrations increased in the soil, in the atmosphere, in the water, and the immediate consequences were 3,300 animals were died. 80,000 animals had to be slaughtered because of the toxic emissions, and then 15 children were hospitalized, and finally this led, of course, to also a huge economic loss. But the consequence of this environmental disaster was that it led to the European Environmental Disaster Directive, which was a legislation that has to be implemented in order to protect and to anticipate the unexpected events. So, Louise, I'm gonna take the freedom to mute you, just so that because I get the feedback I can hear myself in the headphones if someone is not muted. Okay. So yeah, so the reason why I show this example is because it was actually one of the first environmental disasters in the European Union that led to the discussion of a directive how to deal with such unexpected events, and that has been finally integrated into environmental impact statement legislation within the European Union. Second example I want to show is the Amoco Cadiz oil spill on the northern coast of France in 1978. So this was a pretty expensive and huge oil spill that devastated a beautiful stretch of the northern coast of France. And it was actually an event that everybody saw coming. At 9:45, there was a huge storm, and the Amoco Cadiz drifted towards the coast of northern France because simply the rudder was broken. They could not maneuver the ship anymore, and they were just drifting freely in the ocean, being pushed by the wind and the waves. And they tried to contact the rescue teams. The rescue teams didn't have the correct tools to help them. And so for almost 10 hours, they drifted simply around, and 12 hours later, they just ran aground, and the Amoco Cadiz broke in two parts and spilled a huge, made the oil spill that was devastating for the economy, and 300 kilometers of coastal lines of the in northern France were heavily impacted by this oil spill. So here you have a summary of all the consequences of this devastating oil spill. But again, what I want to point out with this example is simply that there was no emergency plan ready how to deal, or no risk plan ready how to deal with this unexpected event. The tugboat that came by and tried to assist the tanker were not equipped with the material to help them. And it was simply an accident that could have easily been prevented if the correct emergency plans were available, and if they could have dealt with this correctly. And finally, the economic consequences were over $2 billion in claims that the French government claimed from the company operating the ship, and obviously then the economic loss were higher than potential prevention measures would have cost. The Teddy environmental disasters, you might have heard about it. This was an environmental disaster that was actually not an accident. It was simply mismanagement that lasted for almost 20 years. From 1984, it started until 2013. And this was the top Teddy mine where they extracted, I think it was gold and copper. And they simply let the waste water flow into the river, and they destroyed almost 300 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers of river stretch. And ironically, this project was called the PNG Sustainable Development Program Limited. But for almost over 20 years, they have been, or 30 years, they have been releasing toxic wastes into the downstream rivers. And so the direct consequences were devastating. Over 90 million tons of mine waste was released into the river. 1,000 kilometers of water stretch was contaminated. And then 1,588 square kilometers of forest died or was impacted by this pollution release, and around 3,000 square kilometers of area has been impacted by this release. So again, here normal environmental impact assessment as we know it today would have helped a lot, because there you would have seen that the impacts are not acceptable on the environment, that you would have to treat the wastewater in a better way. And so this is a way of showing that what the purpose is of an environmental impact assessment in the case of this occupied mine. Bhopal disaster in India was a terrible accident where a lot of people were exposed to. It was a pesticide plant next to the city of Bhopal, which exploded. 500,000 people were exposed to methyl isocyanide gas and other chemicals, and simply this was simply there were no public alarm systems in place, and the devastating background of this terrible accident is that actually previous leaks occurred already in 76, in 81, and 82, and 83. And it was just a question of time until this would happen again. And in 1984, due to an event of different mismanagements, the gas leaked into the atmosphere and exposed almost 500,000 people. So you can see in this, I mean, you can look into the link that I've put down at the bottom of the slide, but there were various different security measures that have been either prevented because of monetary reasons to save money, or simply because of mismanagement that have led to this terrible consequence, a terrible accident. So for example, the Freon system to cool the system was shut down in 1984, a year before, to save money. And then due to mismanagement, some of the cooling water tanks were empty, so they could not cool down the gas and could not take into somehow dissolve some of the pollutants. Then the leaking gas could have been detoxified, but the scrubber was turned off. The water that would have come out of the tank to detoxify the gas was turned off. Then there was a water curtain in case of leak of was. The water curtain was not high enough, and so on. So there was a different, and the flare tower to burn off the gas was not connected to the system. So various different systems that have been not been in place due to mismanagement and due to money-saving measures. But the consequences were terrible. 2,200 people died. Later on, the numbers increased to even a higher number. Almost 500,000 people were injured. And of course, then this led to a lawsuit, which over many years, and well, there was of course a dispute that some people said that this was a sabotage, other people said that this was a mismanagement that lasted over many years up until the year June 2010. when they reached a final agreement. And but the bottom line is that also here, with a strict environmental impact assessment, looking into possible accidents that can occur, this could have been prevented with a lot less costly measures put in place. Chernobyl, this is probably a very prominent disaster, occurred in 1986. Chernobyl was one of the proclaimed safest nuclear reactors in the Soviet Union. At that time, it was put in place just a few days before the 1st of May, which was an important holiday in the Soviet Union, the Labor Day, 1st of May. And just a few days before, on April 26th, four days before the accident occurred, they did some tests. I mean, there's a movie that came out, a Hollywood movie, if you want to, or I don't know if it's a Hollywood movie, but there's a documentary about this where you can see the background information about it. But they tried to do a test. They were all overconfident doing this test, and the reactor exploded. And it took almost several days. Well, of course, it was kept secret for many days, and actually was a Swedish monitoring station that recorded for the first increased radioactivity, and this is how it became public. And that the officials in the Soviet Union actually admitted that the reactor had exploded, but valuable time was lost. People were exposed, and today this is still a death zone, or where you can visit it. There are some now touristic tours being made there, but you have to take special precautions because of the radioactivity. You can see here the amusement park, which was put in place for the 1st of May for the festivities of the Labor Day, that of course became radioactive, contaminated, and that cannot be used now for several decades. The reason why this was really a devastating environmental disaster is because it contaminated a large area around the Chernobyl plant. You have here the Chernobyl plant. It was, of course, did not stop at the border. It went over into Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, and the radioactive cloud went all the way up to Scandinavia. That's why the Swedish monitoring station was one of the first to record this, and that's which led them the Soviet officials to admit that Chernobyl had been exposed. I believe Finland was impacted also quite heavily. Maybe our Finnish partners can say something more in detail to this.
We confirm.
Yes. So anyway, this was really a devastating accident, which then where the radioactive cloud came over Central Europe and impacted the remaining Europe, which then led to stricter legislation and international cooperation in regard to nuclear safety protocols. So here again, just some background information. Feel free to look into the links and read up into it if you're more interested in this. Let me see. I think there's a comment. So. Yeah, some of it was, of course, criminal negligence. Actually, I don't want to finger point at anyone here. I just want to show a few examples of how mismanagement, money, or trying to save money have led to some devastating environmental disasters that could have been prevented. And just to point out that when you write your environmental impact report, that you also see consequences if you don't take the risk of accidents serious enough. Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska. This was a tanker that was on the way sailing along the coast of Alaska, and it was a completely clear day. Nothing would have ever pointed towards a risk of an accident, but the tanker was badly equipped with the wrong radars, and with it also only had one hull instead of two hulls, and it drifted away from the original path along the coast. It came too close to the coast. It ran aground and it split open the side of the hull, and 11 million gallons of oil were spilled onto a very pristine and beautiful coast of Alaska, and had a huge impact. And also rescue teams did not know how to reach it. The rescue teams that came were not equipped to contain the oil spill, and this led to a devastating oil spill that reached across a large area of the Alaska Peninsula. And of course, this might have been prevented if the boat was equipped with the correct safety standards and also with the correct preventive measures in case of an accident. The direct consequences, of course, 120,000 cubic meters of crude oils were spilled into the ocean. 2,000 kilometers of coastal line were impacted by it, and of course this impacted on the wildlife in the area. The causes were mostly inadequate safety standards and also mismanagement. I think that the crew was overloaded with work and did not take into account that they have to be given enough time to to recover after a long shift. Such oil spills happened again and again. Probably the one which you might all remember is the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, where over several months a deep water oil petroleum platform broke off, and the wellhead of one of the wells was simply emitting over weeks crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico. And the world was watching while the Gulf of Mexico was being polluted with this oil, and simply people did not know, or the technicians did not know how to deal with this. Finally, they could cover it with a concrete cover and contain it. But it was not the last one. There was the Prestige oil spill in 2002, or before that, then the various different oil spills that occurred. And just to point out that, that safety measures are important in order to prevent unexpected events. One environmental disaster that I want to point out in particular is the Sandoz chemical spill. It happened in Switzerland. As you might know, I grew up in Switzerland and I studied in Switzerland. So it was an accident that impacted on me personally, not because I was close by, but the Sandoz chemical spill called Schweizerhalle was a chemical storehouse in the city of Basel, which burned down and released chemical toxics into the river of Rhine. The Rhine transported those chemicals down into France, Germany, and Netherlands. And the reason why this was such a complex, why this had such a big impact, well, of course it had environmental impacts, but it also had political consequences, because it was an international disaster that impacted the downstream countries. But also, people did not know, the firefighters simply did not know how to react to this. The firefighters were in place right away. but they did not know how to treat those chemicals, and they did not know how to contain the chemicals in the river that was flowing downstream to prevent distribution of the pollutant, of the toxic elements into downstream waters. And it led to two things in Switzerland. It led to stricter environmental legislation to prevent such accidents in the future, and also to the establishment of environmental science as a master degree at the Federal Institute of Technology at Zurich, and which is now a very popular master degree that is being studied by over 130 students every year, where students look into different aspects, how to prevent and how to deal with environmental challenges like this one. But the direct consequences, of course, toxic agrochemicals were being spilled into the Rhine. It had massive mortality in the wildlife downstream. And yeah, it was, of course, an international disaster that also affected downstream countries. Perhaps one of the most recent examples was the mining waste dam collapse in 2015 that happened in Brazil. And this was simply a dam that collapsed where chemicals were being spilled down and had a terrible impact on downstream villages and downstream ecology. Just to point out that even though accidents have occurred in the past, still such accidents occur again and again, and that is why I think these environmental impact statements and assessments should be taken seriously, and so should be established with carefully in order to really prevent any unexpected event. I've put in here this maybe last environmental disaster that hopefully will never occur, just the threat of a nuclear holocaust. If you have read the news reports, there are always news reports that due to geopolitical tensions, that there's again an increase of something like this, and that we should really try to disarm from such an event, because of course a nuclear holocaust would be the most devastating environmental disasters that could happen to the world. And I'm not going to go into details, but of course this is something that we should be careful, especially in regard to arms treaties that have been in place for many years and that are now being discussed of withdrawing from it. I think in case of such a horrible event, no one could ever get any benefit from it. So I want to close the more lecturing part of it, because I hope I could convince you to study environmental impacts. And I want to have a short quiz again about those environmental disasters that occurred. So Yang Shu will again share his screen. So please use again menti.com to log into the quiz. The quiz will start very soon. So here we have the quiz on environmental disasters. If you go to menti.com, type in the code 584795. We have already 5 participants, 9 participants. So this is going to be a short quiz, and then after the quiz, I would like you to get you all started with the projects that you're going to be working on during the next 3 weeks. We have 24 participants. I think we're 26 participants. I think we're just gonna start. So yeah. So again, the faster you answer, the more points you get. After this Seveso disaster, Italy, 1976, the most I have to move away. Polluted area has been labeled as Zone X, Zone R, Zone A, restricted zone. So this is simply a, actually they didn't really know how to label the zone. They just came up with the first thing that came in their mind. And of course it was Zone A. So there were no real ways of labeling it, but we have, I think, a new leader. Kaspar is the new leader with 2 points ahead of follower up Flower, and Stefan is in third position. So we have a new leader in this second quiz. Question 2. Amoco Cadiz oil spill happened near which country's coast? So remember, this was the boat that was drifting for many hours in the ocean. It had the rudder was broken, and several boats came to help them, but then they didn't have the equipment. So, and of course it was on the northern coast of France. Most of you got this correctly. And will we have a new leader? Oh, Slakio. Slakio is the new leader with 1,963 points. 3 points. Oh no, his second passed. First, we have a new leader. Flower was fastest with 1,963 points, followed by Slakio with 3 points behind it. But the race is still very close. So it depends really how fast you answer the questions to go ahead. And okay, third question. How many deaths were confirmed related to the gas releasing of the Bhopal disaster in India in 1984? 150 to 200, 1,500 to 2,000, 2,500 to 3,000, 3,500 to 4,000. So this was really a devastating impact. So these numbers are sometimes controversial because different agencies count differently. But I think the official death toll was something of over 3,500 and something. So, but we have a new leader. Oriane is the new leader with a birthday cake as an icon. And so, okay, so we have question number 5 already. Was maybe a bit fast, so we could not see the leaderboard or at least look at the numbers. But which group had most immediate casualties after the Chernobyl disaster? Okay, the Chernobyl disaster was the nuclear power plant in the former Soviet Union in Ukraine that exploded. And so was it the doctor, nurses, the firefighters and the rescue workers, the local residents, security guards? It was, of course, the firefighters. So they sent in several thousands of people to stop the fire and then to cover it with cement. And they were, of course, the persons that were impacted the first. So if you, so we're gonna have Oriane still preserves the lead just in front of Tula, who is just following up with about 30 points behind. And then Stefan was the fastest, but could not overtake, could not reach. Well, third place is on the podium, and Flower on fourth position, just behind, 30 points behind Stefan. So we go to question 6. Question 6 is, what is question 6? Why did the Exxon Valdez oil spill occur? So remember, this was a very cold night, driving along the, the pipeline broke, the ship struck a reef, the well had exploded, none of them. Okay, so here you just need to know what kind of a disaster it was, if it was a pipeline that broke open, or if it was a ship, or if it was a wellhead. And of course, it was the ship that was sailing along the coast of Alaska, where people, the crew was just tired. They didn't have the equipment. And so we're gonna have a new leader. Yangshu, you're going almost a bit fast, but that's okay. Maybe you can leave a little bit more time so we just can see how the people answer. Tulla took the lead. We have a new leader, followed by Stefan, who is a follower up, and Oriana is in third position, but followed very closely by Thorstein, who is in fourth position. Slejko was fastest, but could not get enough point to make it to the podium. So, okay, maybe we can go on to the next question. This is the last question, last possibility to go to the stadium, to go jump onto the podium. Which city hosted the summit that led to the International Range Nuclear Treaty? Okay, this is, maybe we didn't discuss this directly, but we had the last slide about the nuclear holocaust, and of course, maybe linked to this treaty was the Intermediate Range Nuclear Treaty, which was first discussed in, it was in Reykjavik. Actually, there's the White House next to, when you drive along the big road in, which goes to Harpa, Höfti. This is where Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev met and discussed for the first time the possibility of signing the Intermediate Range Nuclear Treaty. And this was in Reykjavik, so Reykjavik is the correct answer because it says which city hosted the summit that led to the Intermediate Range Nuclear Treaty, so led up to it because the nuclear range, the treaty itself was signed later. So, well, it's controversial with the answer. We maybe have to reformulate the answer, but we have a new leader of TEMU with 988 points, and we have a second winner, Tulla, who wins the second quiz with 4,628 points. Congratulations. So we're going to make another 5-minute break. Then we're going to come together and go a little bit over what is expected. So the last part of this lecture is really just to inspire you for your own project. You can look at the slides already, but let's meet in 5 minutes. We're going to do breakout sessions where you can meet with your classmates in 5 minutes, or let's meet at 10 minutes past 1 Iceland time. So it's in 7 minutes. And then we're going to do these breakout sessions where you can meet with classmates and discuss possible projects that you would like to work on, or form teams and so on. And I'm going to also show you a few slides, mention again what is expected from you, but let's meet in 10 minutes for to go over the assignment one last time. So 5 minutes break, 6-minute break.
I think everybody is back now.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. I just want to, because everybody can hear, Stefan asked if it's possible to have the 2 group assignments. So one is the environmental impact assessment project, and the other one is the sustainability exercise. You don't have to be in the same group. It's up to you to decide on this. Of course, if you're in the same group, logistically it might be easier because then you can meet at the same time and discuss the same things. On the other hand, if you are, you know, if you are geographically at the same location, it might be from the topic point of view easier to you know, to have one group focusing on sustainability in Helsinki, one group on sustainability in Reykjavik, and one group on, yeah, you see what I mean. So it's up to you to choose if you would like to stick to the same teams for the 2 assignments, or if you would like to have 2 different groups working on the 2 projects. So I just want to summarize one more time what is expected from you. So there are 5 assignments. So it's we decided the group work can be done as 6 students because we should be 36 students, so it should be 6 groups. If you're all 6, if you always can manage to make teams of 6. If there's a group that wants to be smaller because they have a specific interest, we can discuss it. But this is the tentative aim, that we have 6 students working on 6 projects together. So there are 2 individual assignments. One is the extended abstract. There you just have to write a half a page, and then the inventories fact sheet. There you just write the facts about the sub-chapter for the environmental impact project. And then you have the 2, the field protocol is not relevant anymore. We did this last year when we could go outside, but you have the sustainability exercise as described. So the deadlines, the abstract should be handed in this Friday, because I would like to give you feedback on how to reference correctly and how to reference correctly the figures and the tables. This is important because in the final report, hopefully you will incorporate the references and correctly in the final report. So the task today is to form an interdisciplinary team that you can work in, choose a project, event, process that you want to look into, start brainstorming, make preliminary investigations if you can collect enough data on a certain topic. Try to choose a topic where you get enough information together so that you can write a project that is feasible within 3 weeks. Once I had a group of students looking at the nuclear power plant in Russia, and it was very difficult to get data. So I would advise you to choose rather a smaller project that is not as complex, where you get enough information so that you can write something that is more meaningful than if you have to make a lot of assumptions about a huge project where it's difficult to get all the information. We will discuss tomorrow some of the methods, how you can structure your report and how you can present some of the impacts that you find. This we will go over tomorrow and also on Thursday. And then feel free to talk to experts. You can also contact me if you want to discuss a specific issue in particular. And try to be innovative. You can come up with innovative solutions. So use your experience, your inspiration, but be factual. Try to stick to the facts. Use references to to certify your statements. If you state, for example, the emissions of a geothermal power plant is 60 grams per kilowatt hour, there I would like you to, of course, provide a reference where you got this number from. So the final report should be as holistic as possible, where you have social impacts, economic impacts, environmental impacts, maybe transportational needs, public impacts, where you try to put your project in a holistic framework to show the entire sustainability of the project. This is a little bit a revision of what I said already before. By the end of the week, you should hand in this abstract, and then and also by Friday, I would like you to present your project, the 5 W's of your project. So what, when, where, who will do what on Friday. This will not be graded, but I just want to make sure that everybody in the class has a project and a team so that you can start working by the end of the week on the project. So that's why I would like to ask you to prepare a presentation of your project and together with your team members on the topic by Friday this week. The Friday next week is this fact sheet where you should divide your group into topics where you work individually during week 2 on a fact sheet. So the week 3 can be used to merge the sub-chapters into one final report. So that's why you should hand in the fact sheets by Friday next week. Then the sustainability project is actually Wednesday in week 3. There you just present the project regarding the sustainability of your hometown. So here there are still some leftovers from last year. So it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. So the dates on the assignment sheet is what counts. What's written on the slides might not always be correct with or in line with what is written in the assignment sheet. But Thursday in week 3, I would like you to all present the final project. So we will have 20 minutes of presentation, 10-minute discussions with 5 minutes of tolerance. And we will of course try to be, everybody can comment on our projects, and I would like you to use the Friday of the 3rd week to incorporate some of the critical comments or questions that you got during the presentations. I will be available on Friday the 3rd week if you have questions, but the final report should not be longer than 40 pages. This is an absolute limit that we try to write as concise, pack information in concise sentences. It can be, of course, shorter, the final report. It can be 30 or 20 pages, as long as the content is there. The content counts, it's not the length of the report that counts. You can click on this link that is in the slides here, where you have an overview of all the projects in the past years. So you can see that there were some projects were quite big, like for example, this bauxite mine in Australia. And then there were rather smaller projects like the carbon footprint of exchange student, which was a very nice report, which was rather a smaller project. As someone asked the question, hi David, is the abstract related to the fact sheet and group? No, the abstract is not related to the, it can be related, but it does not need to be related to the final project. The abstract, the purpose of the abstract is really just to see that you use the correct referencing and that you use the correct, that you have correct figures and tables so that you can use the feedback also that you get for the abstract for the final report. But it does not need to be related to your work. It can be if you want, but also the abstract should be short, half a page. Usually an abstract is not longer than half a page. In this case, because we want to look at the references, it has to have one figure, at least one figure, one table, and the references for the statements that you make in the abstract. But it does not need to be linked to your project. So just a few projects that came that students have been looking at in the past. For example, the IceLink was a project that where students were writing about the environmental impact. So this is the IceLink is this cable, connector cable to connect the Icelandic electricity grid to mainland Europe. Well, first to Scotland and then to mainland Europe. And the idea is to be able to trade electricity in with mainland Europe. Another example was the carbon footprint of exchange students. Here the students looked at what is the carbon footprint of coming to Iceland for 1 week. The ICE train, this is a train connecting Keflavik Airport with Reykjavik downtown. This was another project that students looked at. Wellhead geothermal power plant. So these are wellhead generators in Senegal that were installed directly onto the wellheads. And a group of students looked at the environmental impacts of such wellhead generators, which are mobile, which can be moved around, but which are placed in a quite sensitive area. So they looked at the total impact. Incineration plant. This is an incineration plant in Vienna. Hundertwasser was the architect. So this incineration plant was built in a very sustainable way, in a way that they have green rooftops and plants on it. So in order to reduce at least the visual impact of an incineration plant in a residential area. Yeah, so there, please feel free to get inspired by those different examples that are listed in the slides here. If you have specific questions, feel free to ask me. What I would like to do now, I would like to share with you, because there was a question regarding the references. So the references is only for the table or figures, not the sentences. So I'm going to show you what I meant with the references for, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I have to open the exercise sheet. And if I go, now I have to share. Okay. So this is the assignment sheet that you all got by email last Friday. So here you have the course material, or well, the Zoom link, like where you're now. This is the Dropbox link. Here you have the deadlines and the type of assignment, the 2 individual assignments and 4 group work assignments. And then here you have the grading system one more time. So please, all individual assignments, please send them to Young Shu, the teaching assistant. His email is shu16ru.is. I'm not exactly sure how our Finnish friends should hand in their assignment. Maybe it's better if you send it to Kai. I'm not exactly sure, because we're going to have different gradings between Reykjavik University and Metropolia University in Helsinki. But if I understood correctly, you will do the same exercises in Finland as the students from Reykjavik University. So the abstract, it should be maximum 300 words and 1 figure and 1 table. In the text, you should reference, for example, if you write in the text that the geothermal power plant emits 60 grams carbon emissions per kilowatt hour produced. This is typically a statement that needs a reference, because you can't just make up this number. This number should come from somewhere. And then I would like you to point to the according reference by stating the first author's last name and the year in the sentence. I would like you to write out the first author's last name and the year in the text of the statement. So if you write geothermal energy geothermal energy emits, on average in Iceland, 60 grams carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour of electricity production. Then I would like you to put in parentheses the last name of the first author and the year of the publication. And at the end of the abstract, have references that depend on where you get it from. If it's a journal article, I would like to have always last names first, and then the letter of the first name, and then the year. And then comes the title. And after the title comes the journal name. In this case, it's Water Resources Research. You can abbreviate it, but you can also write it out. And then typically comes the issue. In this case, it's the issue 48. And then, no, the volume, in this case, it's the volume 48 and the issue W02521. So typically you have volume, issue, and then you have this digital object identifier. The digital object identifier is a number that you give to every electronic document, so you can find it even if the website changes. Websites are very dynamic, they can change very easily. So that is why for scientific articles, a DOI number is necessary. For example, for institutional reports, for example, the IPCC, it's usually not published in a scientific journal, but it's an institutional report. So there you just abbreviate the institution it's written for. In this case, it's IPCC. Then you write the year, and then comes the title of the report that you're citing. So in this case, it's global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius, summary for policymaker working groups 1, 2, and 3. And in this case, if you use IPCC as an acronym, it's necessary to then fully write it out. That if you look into the reference, that you can find out that IPCC stands for Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. And then, depending on the report, provide some kind of, what kind of report it is. This here it is the 48th session of the IPCC working group. Provide the number of pages. This particular report has 34 pages. And then also provide the place, the city, and the country where the report was written. This is necessary because, for example, if you write United Nations, the United Nations has several offices across the world. And in order to find the report easier, provide the city and the country of where the report was written. For example, Geneva, Switzerland, or New York, USA, or whatever. And then you can also list the URL. The URL frequently changes so fast that you have to provide the full information before you provide the URL. Otherwise, it will not be possible to find the reference in a short, in 1 year or so. Simply providing a URL is not sufficient for a reference because the website might change, the address might change, and then it's not possible to find the reference that you're providing. You can also cite theses of other students. For example, this was a master student that I supervised, and his last name was Musa. Said was his first name. So I would you like you to put first the last name and then the abbreviation of his first name, then the year, then the title, and then the university where the thesis was written. In this case, it's United Nations University. land restoration training program, and then the type of thesis. It can be a master thesis, a PhD thesis, a bachelor thesis, or a program thesis, the number of pages, and then again, city and country. And in case of master theses or PhD theses, please write also the supervisor to provide a continuity. If available, then you can also put a link, web link, which links directly to the report. But again, the web link might change, so it's not sufficient to just provide a web link. For some theses, you have a digital object identifier. So always if you have a DOI number, it's better to provide this digital object identifier, because then this is something that will stay the same for forever. Conference proceedings, you can also cite conference proceedings. In this case, you go very similar to journal articles. You provide the last name and then the abbreviated first names of all the authors, the year, then the title of the presentation at the conference, and then provide the volume or the number of issues the conference has been dealt with. Then provide the abbreviation of the conference, for example, EGU 2018, and then write out the name of the conference, because not everybody knows what EGU means. So that is why it's good to provide the full name as well. So in this case, it would be European Geoscience Union General Assembly 2018. Also important, again, city and country. In this way, because we know where the conference took place, and it's easier to find the conference proceeding if the web link doesn't work anymore. Again, you can provide a web link as well, but only the web link or websites are not good references, because websites can change very quickly and it's not a reliable source of information, simply because they might change too quickly. Any questions so far? I think what's also important for the abstract is that figures always have captions. So if you have a figure like this, below you can have a figure with a number, so figure 1, but it has to be mentioned in the text. That, for example, if you write about fishing yields in a lake and state from 1930 to 1970, the fishing yields have been increasing as seen in figure 1. Every figure that you put in the abstract or also in the report needs to be mentioned in the text. You cannot have a figure that is just there without ever being mentioned in the text. Otherwise, it's confusing. The reader cannot connect the figures and the text. So that's why also every figure should have a number and should be mentioned in the text. The same for the table, but the table always has a title and not a caption. So the difference between captions is below the figure, and the table is above and the title is above the table. And so here you can see, for example, how this is cited. So here you have finger 2016, or actually it should be finger 2006. The one is wrong here, and I can see. And then if you look here, finger 2006 would be this reference here. In the final report, the references should be ordered alphabetically. In this way, it's very easy to find the reference that you're quoting in your text. Okay, the inventory, we'll go over this tomorrow and Thursday a bit more in detail, but here it's all about grouping together the dimensions of your project. So for example, we have here a few examples. For example, the description of an hypothetical power plant. So here I would expect a table like this where you have the description, number of steam turbines, 4, and then provide a reference in the table where the number comes from. Sometimes it's irrelevant. Then you can just say, or just provide it by the company, but sometimes if you have, for example, estimated power generated by a certain turbine, maybe you can put here the reference to the company that produces the turbines. So if you have, it doesn't need to be like this, but sometimes it's useful to have a table with the references in the, or a column with the references in the table. So here for the emissions, for example, CO2 emissions, here typically you would need a reference to take into account where you got the number from for a specific project. Socioeconomics. So here, if you estimate that your project will generate 10 new jobs, then you could summarize this in a table like this. But again, I would somehow need some reference. If it's an educated guess, you can also write that this is an estimate based on these assumptions. So feel free to change the tables in a way that they make sense for your report or for your fact sheet. Yeah, so this is more or less, so those were the 2 individual assignments. And then the group assignments. So this is basically what I would like to ask you to do today. Form an interdisciplinary team. Choose a project, event, product, process you would like to assess the environmental impact. So it can be a project. For example, it can be the project of a train between Keflavik Airport and Reykjavik. It can be an event. It can be, for example, I don't know, the Olympic Games in Reykjavik could be a possibility. Just brainstorming. It could be a product. We had a group of students looking at the Fair phone, which is an environmentally friendly cell phone. And they looked at the environmental impacts of the production of such a Fair phone. Or a process where you process, for example, whatever. If you do the fish processing in Iceland, you could take a look at the fish processing in Iceland and write an environmental impact assessment about the fish processing. So maybe today you can just use your time to do a brainstorming, think what you would like to do, contact other people from the class, try to form a team. And then I think also it's good to make some preliminary investigations to find if you have enough information to write a report about your project idea. So the methods, we will discuss them tomorrow, but typical methods, for sure you will have to define a functional unit, define a system boundary, what is included in your project and what not. For example, if you were to say aluminum production in Iceland, then within the system boundary, you have to define, if you include in your aluminum production, the extraction of bauxite in Australia or in Brazil within your environmental impact statement. You can of course exclude it, but it needs to be very clearly defined in the system boundary. We'll go over this tomorrow. A scoping is where that is where you just think about your project and identify what are relevant aspects and what are not relevant aspects. So this is an important aspect so that you don't get lost in topics that are not relevant for your project. So LCA, this is a life cycle analysis. We will have one morning where we look into life cycle analysis in particular. You will get a chance to, where we take a look. Matrices and chain analysis, these are simply ways how you can structure the environmental impacts in a systematic way. So in principle, it's tables. It's a little bit like what you do for the inventory, but in matrices, you give it also a qualitative aspect where you state this is really an important impact, this is a not so important impact. And then, so the remaining methods, you might use them, you might not use them. So chain analysis, of course, you can have subsequent impacts. For example, if you release wastewater into the stream, a direct impact is that the water quality decreases. But then there are subsequent effects where there are impacts on the fish and the fish quality, and then finally also on the economy of the fishery. So you might have these chain analysis where you have a sequence of different impacts that occur because of one impact. Maps, so GIS exercises are frequently very important if you have projects or factories that use up a lot of space. So you might show how much space it uses up, what sensitive area does it impact and what not. Cause-effect diagrams, you visualize how the cause affects different aspects of your project. Models, those are numerical models. I'm not sure if you will have enough time to use the numerical models within your project. This depends a bit on the topic of your project. So feel free to contact experts and talk about your project and be innovative. So in the week 3, once every team member has handed in the fact sheet, then the next step would be to compile the different fact sheets into one final report. So it's good that you discuss already before that while you write up the fact sheets, so that it's easier for you to compile the different fact sheets into one report. I think this is it's a challenge because you will see that those are completely different aspects. But for example, if one of you writes about the environmental impacts of 1 ton of aluminium, it would be good if you use the same reference. So always 1 ton of aluminium has this effect. It's just easier for you to argue in the final report that your functional unit is always 1 ton of aluminium. I think I mentioned this already. All tables and all figures must be mentioned in the text. Figures must have captions, tables must have titles. I mentioned this already. And so these are some writing tips that you might take a look into. Limit yourself to 40 pages. You can have an appendix that is longer, but it has to be, but then put it in the appendix where you have lots of background information. But the text should be self-explanatory. The text of your final report should be self-explanatory and maximum 80 pages, 40 pages, because otherwise it simply becomes too long. Yeah, so I think that this is quite important, this academic structure of the final report. The final report should have an abstract, a table of context, an introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. I think that is quite important that you make a difference between results and discussion, because in results you report the results without any interpretation, and in its discussion you can put in there your opinion. So in the results I would like to see only facts like the emissions are this and that, and into the air and into the water and into the soil. And in the discussion you can then say, based on our results, there are emissions, but they are acceptable. And the reason behind it is that you differentiate two chapters. One chapter where you just have facts, and one chapter where you have, where you discuss the facts and you have space for interpretation. Okay? And then of course a conclusive statement where you summarize why your project is perfect. I'm going to upload into the Dropbox a template for the final report and for the fact sheet, so and also for the abstract, which you can use to start writing your report. Sustainability exercise. This is something that you have to present about your local community as more or less self-explanatory. Any questions so far? Okay, Yangshu, I would suggest that we make maybe 2 or 3 rounds of breakout rooms so people can meet each other and ask each other if they're interested. I see that there's, for example, one question about Arctic oil gas drilling, environmental impact assessment on Arctic oil gas drilling. If someone is interested to work on that topic, please contact Stefan. But otherwise we would do maybe 3 or 4 breakout rooms so you can get to know each other. And if anyone has a question, feel free to write me. You can write me privately in the chat, or you can also contact me after the class. So if you have questions regarding the project or so. But otherwise, Yangshu, yeah, okay, so we're going to start out with breakout rooms. Feel free to use them and for 2 minutes, and then we will have another